Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the listeners of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. The sun is slowly cooling down, the winds are coming in, the leaves are falling, and the pumpkin spice is flowing. You know what that means. Summer is officially over, and now we are entering the fall season of 2023. As you can see from today's title, we are going to be going over the seasonals of fall for 2023. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't watched. Some that Jason has. I'll let my partner Jason go into what he's been watching, what he's been doing, and we'll also break down a lot of the seasonals for this season. Jason, how are you doing, my guy?
Let me describe something because we're going to be releasing this episode on Halloween, okay? We'll imagine a group of college young ladies with North Face. Is it called North Face or Columbia?
You're just describing a tech bro now.
And then like a vest.
This is Silicon Valley right
here.
here.
Then you have jean denim skirt. You have Ugg boots. And then you have pumpkin spice latte in... Normally, you're right-hand dominant.
You're describing a 5-year-old meme at this point.
Then you have your phone
You're
on the other.
You're going into pre-COVID memes. This is
and they're all blonde hair. They all belong to a sorority.
Hey! You cannot discriminate. Not all of them have blonde hair. Some of them have brown hair. Some of them are brunettes. Some of them didn't go. Some of them didn't rush. Some of them didn't go into sorority.
Well, you don't have to rush to watch a lot of things, but you need to rush to listen to this episode because, as Will said, this is our seasonal review for fall 2023. Probably, as per usual in any given fall season, the most stacked season of the year.
Before we go into it, should we maybe sort of, rename this as not a review? Because we haven't technically reviewed a whole season. We're just going by what we see so far. So is it more preview than anything?
It is a seasonal lineup recommendation.
I mean, you can't spell
sponsored by
you can't
JW
spell the word
Studio.
Yeah, you can't spell the word preview without review, I suppose. So you can go both ways.
Holy fuck! Yeah, exactly. But we have two professionals here willing to give you the rundown.
There's only one P in preview.
But we share it, though. We share the platform for the podcast.
We split the P, okay.
Because everything between you and I is 50-50. We split the profits. I mean, you before we started recording, you told me that word. What's it called again? The F...
fricatives.
Yeah. I didn't know such a word existed. It makes sense once I knew the definition. And obviously,
I'm not going to go into it.
Yeah, please don't. But you can Google it. It's a legitimate linguistics term. It's all good. Anyways, no reading, watching, because we did a lot of that for this episode. The news? Well, the news is fall is here, and we're all... losing our minds.
I think that's the main thing. I think nothing is more important for this episode than to actually just dive deep into the seasonals for fall. So we will just go into it. Do we want to mention anything about our seasonal bets before we go into the fall review?
Yeah.
So after a long-standing losing run of 0-5 on my side, for summer 2023, I have finally ascended to the throne. I have finally won a seasonal bet. It has come a long, long way, and I'm proud of myself, but I'm not going to, die on this hill because I feel like this is probably a 1 in a million chance I've got because, looking into the upcoming season, it's not as rosy. I think I'm behind you at the moment, like 0.14. I'm not that far off.
1.7.
I'm not that far off.
Yeah, you're not that far off.
And considering how the previous season, spring went down, where it was literally off by 0.01, 0.02. That was a very close race. But this time around,
that was insane.
Yeah,
honestly.
this time around it was a lot more clear from the beginning that the picks I made definitely carried me to victory. So I'll take the applause, and then we move on from there.
Well, you're. Will conceded that he did not want champagne, but we will be having whiskey at the finale.
Yes. So we'll be looking forward to that.
We're not going to get drunk now when we need to be on our A game. As Will alluded to earlier, we actually did our seasonal picks for fall 2023 off air.
Maybe we'll go into which ones we actually picked after we do the reviews. So then that way it's like we don't sort of like, I'm not saying that it's a spoiler, but you know what I mean.
Delay the thing. Yeah, absolutely. needless to say, we did our picks, and we have a tentative current standing. We'll get into that later on. But let's talk about, before we get into those shows, I think given the gravity and the sheer quality / quantity in every respect, let's talk extremely briefly about kind of
what the hell's been going on.
Exactly, right?
So in terms of last season, for summer, there was like 45 shows in total. And in comparison to this season, fall, which is a whole 15 more shows, 60 shows running concurrently in this new seasonal rotation.
And I did fall 2022 numbers as well, and that was only 47, which I thought at first I kind of was like taken aback because I thought, wait, and I did summer 2022 and it was 45 on the dot for so both summers, and I was just like,
yeah, I think COVID's one thing, and also since a lot of like lockdowns and social distancing and workplace sort of restrictions start getting loosened at the beginning of the year, I think that's why like some stuff kind of still bled into being delayed in spring and summer earlier this year. But I think now we're getting back into a full rotation of 50 plus shows going forward. Which on one hand, if you love your anime, great, you've got a lot to pick from. But if you're like us, that just makes it even harder to actually cover everything, because who the hell has time to watch 60 fucking seasonals?
31 of the 60 shows are in the 7 to 7.99 category.
8 of them are at an 8 and up at the moment. So very good stats. I think we've done analyses in the past where spring and fall tend to be stronger performing seasons, and then you have more of a lull with summer and winter. So still very much matching up with previous trends. 8 shows, 8 and up. And some of them are kind of like closely reaching in on that 8 mark as well. So we could be seeing more shows breaching into like the top sort of echelon as the season goes by,
especially when it wraps up, and then there's that score paradigm
spike
shift
at the end,
always happens. And if you are interested in kind of the nitty and gritty 2023 stats overall, stay tuned, because in 2024, one of our episodes is Will's patented annual
anime retrospective,
and we will go knee deep into stats for that one. But that is just to give you a rough idea of just how stacked this podcast is going to be in order for us to even cover this season. The fact that we even have to say it's a review is because there's just so much. So let's go. What we're going to do now is kind of go over the shows that we either won't be covering in great detail and kind of give a little nod to those. Maybe some shows that we wanted to check out and maybe we'll report on later. And then afterwards, go straight into those shows that we want to cover. This time around, our lineup that we're going to cover is smaller in comparison to other seasonal reviews, but I think that's because each show actually has a lot of content to talk about. And I think will be interesting for everyone.
So right off the bat, some of the stuff that we won't be covering in great depth, Spy X Family Season 2. The reason why, it's because we already know how good it is. Though I will say that, what's been trending is its downward score. When it was peaking at like an 8.9, even like a full 9 for its first part of the first season, and then it was an 8.6, 8.7, and now it's kind of middling down towards like an 8.29 at the moment, which is not a bad score. It's such a very good score, but I think
it's just hype dying down.
Based on what we've read so far, it's like literally, as Jason would put it, it's same shit, different day.
Yeah, you're going to hear that a lot. Same shit, different day, best possible way is a phrasing for a lot of the sequels this time around. Yeah. So that's always a good thing. And another one that is performing pretty well is Goblin Slayer Season 2.
Yeah, that one is on a upward trajectory compared to the previous seasons. I think Season 1 was like a 7.4 something. This one's currently sitting at a 7.6 and up. So 7.66 to be specific. So definitely better than how it performed when the first season came out many, many, many years ago. But neither Jason nor I really care about Goblin Slayer. We know there's a hardcore fandom for it, but if you've already watched Season 1, then I don't see any reason why you wouldn't watch Season 2. But for those who are trying to get into it now, you probably still need to watch Season 1 first.
Now, The next show that we are not going to cover, but is actually quite interesting, is Shield Hero Season 3, a popular isekai show with a lot of waifu material, I suppose, and a lot of stupid degen people.
A lot of controversial topics within the series as well. So season 1 was wildly popular, not specifically because it was a groundbreaking isekai, but it actually introduced one of the sort of best revenge arcs of all time.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
But then when season 2 came out, I think that people were still riding on that hype of, oh god, the way that season 1 ended and it's probably going to continue that momentum. It fell flat, very, very flat. I think in the end it was like a 6.7, 6.8 for season 2.
Good news. Season 3 has jumped significantly in score compared to season 2 and is now sitting like a 7.7?
7.69.
6.9. So essentially, it seems on the surface that things have bounced back, which was something that I think a lot of people were concerned about because they were just, and Will and I just wrote it off at that point.
Yeah, and to be fair, season 1 wasn't like amazing in score either. It was around a flat 8.
Yeah.
So it was still really good, but like it wasn't like earth shattering. So to see something that's like a 7.69 is it's a comfortable score for where Shield Hero should be. I think it's basically dusted off the negativity that came in from season 2, and it's just trying to make
earned, by the way, the negativity.
Yeah. Right now it's just trying to make it, trying to correct the ways of, actually pushing the story forward. I think it was just a matter of adapting something that wasn't wholly interesting to people, and people were kind of concerned as to the direction the anime was going. But if you're trying to go something as like faithful as a full adaptation of Shield Hero, you're gonna have to adapt some of the boring stuff too. And unfortunately, it was a whole season of it.
Not just that, but Shield Hero not only takes the crown for season 3, takes the crown for redemption arc, but has the highest amount of members this season. Period.
Yeah. Do you think biggest comeback for an anime series, or do you think it's
on paper? Yeah,
on paper, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably still other stuff to come out later on this year, but we will see how well this actually performs and if it'll maintain that mid 7 score, maybe even go higher as the season develops.
Now, Will and I check it out? I can at least attest that my perspective is I will check it out, but it is far, far low on the list.
I mean, did you even finish season 2?
Nope. So I have to dredge through that, but that's not necessarily a deal breaker. But it's also, there are so many other good shows and so many on hold shows that I'm losing my mind on the amount of on hold shows I have, that's like very far down the list of things to check out. But at least it's good to know that season 3 is doing good, at least stats wise. So that's it. Tokyo Revengers, Will. Any comments on that?
I think that the score it has right now, which is like a high 7.95, reaching almost into 8 territory, is very good. I think a lot of the stuff that, because I've already read the manga and I've really liked the way the manga presents itself, the main concern that always comes in is just the way that it gets animated. Unfortunately, I have a love-hate relationship with Leiden Films because they do a lot of good work, but it doesn't always come out aesthetically pleasing. And I think that the way that they just basically designed the characters for Tokyo Revengers from season 1, they've had to stick with it. And so when you have we make the whole sort of like stereotyping of really big anime eyes and really goofy facial features and whatnot.
It does look very weird. I have to no, it's not weird in the sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it just looks jarring to me slightly.
Yeah, I appreciate that you don't want to go for the standard anime look because of the way that it was written, it was drawn in the manga. But I just felt that sometimes some scenes weren't delivered as well as it should throughout seasons 1 and 2.
Didn't they also have a Christmas showdown? Or
that was basically, I think what they did was they kind of were going with the season 1 and season 2 thing, and then the way that Demon Slayer was going through arcs as opposed to seasons. It makes sense because there's some arcs within Tokyo Revengers that are very pivotal to the story, and you can't just have that as this is 6 episodes within a 12 episode curve, whatnot. No, it kind of needs to have its own allotted time, spanning over 11 to 13 episodes. So that's probably something they're going through right now as well. What I will say is that once you get past the Christmas Showdown arc, there's going to be a lot more intense battles and just a lot of friction between the different characters in Tokyo Revengers. So
did the Christmas Showdown and stuff were rated lower? Because I remember the last thing that was released was rated lower than current Tokyo Revenger arc.
Look, it's definitely a better score now with its current iteration, but in the past it was around like a 7.9, like up to an 8 level. It wasn't a drastic drop, but a 7.69 for the previous arc, which is like the Christmas Showdown. That was a little bit depressing, I would say, for Tokyo Revengers fans. But the fact that it's coming back up to the score it used to have, right, 7.97 for the first season, currently 7.95. I think Equilibrium's back. So rejoice, Tokyo Revengers fans of the anime. You guys are going to be fine.
I think a lot of sequels this season, things like Uma Musume Season 3, and there's like a number of ones that are escaping my mind. The last season performed lower. Like the gulf or the difference might not be that much, but it's interesting to see, like, especially the ones that have Season 3 in the name, especially Shield Hero takes the crown in that regard, where the middle season is significantly lower, and then the current airing season is bounced back, is very, very comforting to hear, because if you're a fan of that show, it's always good. We all like good stuff. So if things improve, then, or the general sentiment indicates so, that's a good thing. So good. So that's it.
Yeah. I think another thing that you said you kind of wanted to just quickly brush off was After School Hanako-kun.
So After School Hanako-kun is what we call the mini anime.
Like 10 episodes.
The spin-off.
10 minutes per episode, right?
Yep. And there's only 4 episodes. And I already watched 3 of the 4 that has currently aired. And I think the 4th one is airing this weekend, which is like right now as we're recording. They are essentially like mini skits. My suspicion is because they announced a rework ages ago, and that is not, I repeat, not this anime that is like essentially 40 minutes of content. I think it's to reintroduce everyone. They got the same voice cast back. The aesthetics look extremely similar to the Tim Burton-esque that we all know and love of Season 1, which I watched during one of my cleanups. It's not called Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, but it's called After School Hanako-kun because it's the spin-off. So let's see what happens. I presume that there will be something teased at the end of this to give more insight as to the quote-unquote rework, remake, or whatever it is, because it seems on the forums, or if you just like investigate further, that the first season, albeit pretty good, cut a lot of content. So who knows? Let's see how that goes. But 7 out of 10 for After School Hanako-kun. It looks great. The same VAs, same kind of humor. It's just fine for what it is.
I mean, yeah, an authentic, honest, re-adaptation before going into the actual remaster that should be coming out soon.
Which is kind of smart, to be honest. It's kind of like, hey, dipping your toes, letting everyone know that this thing is returning to a certain degree, and then people Google and whatnot, and that's how it snowballs.
Yep. So those are the ones that we kind of want to just, quickly mention. There's other ones that either Jason or I will be checking out later and maybe report back in, maybe as like an update in future episodes. Stuff like Arc Knight Season 2, Right in the Crimson, the Yuzuki Family's 4 Sons, Season 2 of Kengan Ashura. I definitely will be checking that out.
Me too.
Stardust Telepath, Shy, all capital letters, as well as Kingdoms of Ruin and maybe Berserk of Gluttony.
Yeah. So that's just a quick, rundown of shows that we will not be covering in great detail, and shows that we might cover in the future. Don't hold us to that, though.
Yeah. So I can see that, in terms of, you did predominantly write this docket. We're starting off with 2 of your favorite series. So I think, where better to start than to talk about Season 2 of The Eminence and Shadow. They released episode 1 several months ago, I think in either the summer or even like the spring season. So people were already like kind of aware what to expect. That's probably why we saw the score for Eminence and Shadow Season 2 already like skyrocketing the charts. But now that the season has actually developed and you actually do see more episodes, I think it's stayed consistent with its score. So maybe I'll give the floor to Jason to talk about one of his most beloved shows in this current season.
Because we mentioned Eminence and Shadow plenty of times, it's also done by Studio Nexus, and it is, just to give credit where credit is due, it is based on the light novel series of the same name by Tozai, who did the art. Daisuke Aizawa, who did the story, and published in English by Yen Press.
Daisuke.
Fuck. Well, you're going to force me to make all these pronunciation mistakes, right?
No, I'm not forcing you to make them. You're just doing
You're
them
just
on your
guiding
own.
me. Got it.
I'm not saying anything here. I'm just literally just pronouncing the words.
I didn't, I didn't push Jason off the cliff. I just led him to the cliff and was like, hey, the view down there looks pretty good, right? And I just walked away. I didn't know what happened, guys.
Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a horse drown,
But you could try to convince it to drink water and then drown from it. Yeah.
So have you watched much of season 2 so far?
All of it.
All of it.
To
All of what's out right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, the score differential compared to season 1. Season 1 was holding strong at an 8.31, a very good score. But this time round, a full half a point up. 8.81, which is insanely high. It puts it in like the top 50 on my anime list of all anime. So is it top 50 for you? I mean,
yeah.
it's subjective, of course, but
8.81 ranked 33. So that's fucking insane. The thing that I would like to emphasize about season 2, first of all, same shit, different day in a very good way. You will not be disappointed with what season 2 is going to offer, because especially when all the the foundation has been laid out in season 1, now season 2 is kind of like, all right, let's get into the good shit. Let's get into like the bloodshed, the action, and also let's have Shadow become the stupid hero that he is and kind of is edgy for edgy reasons. And there is plenty of that as well. Everyone thinks he is like overpowered and crazy, and sometimes he's just aloof and just be like, oh yeah, whatever, it's all good.
Yeah, look, I think like if you already were invested in season 1 or even like the source material, you would be caught up or at least catching up with the current iteration of the Eminence and Shadow. For any newcomers coming in, I mean, look, it's hard to look past its insanely high scores for both season 1, season 2, as well as the source material. So, look, it's top 3, almost like top 400 in popularity for the manga, for the anime season 1, and I would I would say that the popularity in terms of its members kind of carries over to all the other iterations, just because not everyone's going to like anything past season 1.
I mean, a lot of it actually is less popular significantly, but it's kind of actually quite natural. It's like Golden Kamui we talked about before.
Every single anime series after season 1 is less popular. Like the sequels are always less popular, but that doesn't mean that it's reflective of anything.
I think it's more dedicated fan base because all the people that checked it out and thought, okay, whatever, what it is, what it is. The people that stay,
and that's why I think that if you add it yourself as a member or contribute to the popularity score from season 1, it should carry over for all the other seasons.
Basically, you will not be disappointed. It will be the opposite. I will be disappointed if you're disappointed in season 2. Let me just put it that way. All right, the next show that we will talk about, my other favorite show as well. The Ancient Magus' Bride Season 2, Part 2. Please don't follow AOT. Thanks, guys. Naming conventions. Based on the ongoing manga of the same name by Kore Yamazaki, who did the story and the art, published in English by Seven Seas Entertainment. And Season 2, Part 1 premiered in spring, so they did a split curse system. Also produced by Studio Kafka. Just something to note, Season 1 was produced by Wit Studio, so there was a changing of the guards.
Which is actually interesting here, because now that I've watched all Season 1, as you had like many, many years ago, and then you were really hyped that we're bringing back the series with Season 2, Part 1, and now Part 2. How do you find, Studio Kafka's handling of the property so far?
They had like an in-between, like anime only, I think something called The Blue Knight. I remember checking it out.
You
a couple of episodes. Yeah. It was a very admirable attempt, but there was no... I remember distinctly that the orchestral music, was very lacking, but I thought, hey, maybe it's just because it's like dipping their toes. It's only 3 episodes. It's because of Season 2, which is eventually what they announced at the end of that, which is what everyone wanted. The thing about that's interesting is Part 1 took a huge nosedive at the finale, I guess mid-season finale.
It was holding itself up over an 8 entering the final weeks of that particular season, but by the end of it dropped down 0.28. So it
actually dropped more, but in that 1 week.
Yeah.
it dropped 0.28. That's
Yeah.
insane.
So it's currently, well, at least season 2, part 1 is holding a 7.74. Where in contrast with the current part, right, part 2, 7.85. It's marginally better. Not quite an 8 yet, but I don't think it needs to be an 8 for Magus' Bride fans to be like, no, this is still a good show. Like, I think for them, if you like the series, you shouldn't really have much of an issue with how things are being handled by Kafka.
So the thing with part 1, and I think the dip in score is very evident when you watch it, is because it ends on a massive cliffhanger. Yeah. So everyone got blue balled. I understand why and I read the manga all the way up to current because the mangaka took a hiatus after the school arc, which is concerning once the school arc has been adapted, we're going to wait a while for season 3 or whatever season later on. It will be a while because it took a long time for this, what they call the school arc, to wrap up. A lot of arcs are called school arcs nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, Chainsaw Man, right?
Yeah.
A lot. It's you got to remember the primary demographic that manga and anime is geared towards. So you're going to have some sort of school arc, regardless of what genre you go into.
Hey, what does Harry Potter have, or Harry Potter-esque magic have to do with school?
Yeah,
put the pieces together.
I wonder. But in terms of just sort of giving your early thoughts on how part 2 is going, and hopefully where it will end by the end of the season. Are you enjoying the ride so far? Are you still happy to continue going on this Kafka train of Ancient Magus' Bride?
Absolutely. The thing is that all of this second part of season 2 is essentially resolving what the cliffhanger entails, or the resolution of that. And everything, the pieces are now being put together, and the mystery is going to be revealed. So I think that at the end of part 2, there should be a very good jump in score. And back to the same thing. I think everyone just got blue balled and got turned off.
I think cliffhanger endings are always kind of shit. It's not the same as the situation that Spy X Family had, though, with season 1.
Yeah.
Where that one was, there was some cliffhanger-esque bullshit going on, but it was the fact that they decided to end the season by not even addressing the cliffhanger and just introducing something that was totally not necessary. They could have just done
a one-off aquarium.
Well, it didn't have to be 12 episodes. It could have just been 11 episodes, and then you make part 2, 13 episodes to make up for it.
Absolutely, but who knows? It could be a scheduling thing. There could be things behind the back.
I don't know. Maybe we talked about anime production committees not too long ago.
Maybe a group of people. I don't know what you would label them as, who are involved on the production side.
Some production dark arts shenanigans happening in the back. Who knows?
Illuminati.
Yeah. Put your hands up for a triangle right now. Anyways.
All wear robes. Okay. That being said, though,
sacrifice children in the basement somewhere.
No.
We will move on swiftly to the next series, which is something you also like too, but it doesn't seem like everybody else feels the same. Girlfriend Season 2, based on the ongoing manga series of the same name by Hiroyuki. Both the story and the art was done by them. Published in English by Kadensha, and guess what? Sample pubbed by K-Manga as well. So, Season 1 premiered back in summer 2021, and it was done by Tezuka Productions at the time. Now, this time around, it is going to be produced, and will still be produced, by Synergy SP. Now, in our anime retrospective, Synergy SP, not the best studio. They don't necessarily produce the most consistent and good anime series. Their scores tend to be in the low to mid 6s, some 7s here and there, but I think that's kind of consistent with what's been going on, throughout its history. Now, this time around, just as a reminder for how the anime had been doing prior to its current iteration, Season 1 held a raw score of 6.54. Very, very mid. But it didn't stop it from being in the top 700 for popularity, well over 340,000 members. The source material was also very, very popular. And I think now we're starting to see, as Jason mentioned earlier, that yes, there are a lot of sequels, but it's also a good thing because it seems that the sequels are actually pushing the pedigree of the source material further, with the current season for Girlfriend sitting at a raw score of 7.31. Massively upgraded from season 1.
Yeah. Now, you could say that when there is a score differential of, I guess, what would be your cutoff, Will, where things become less of maybe it's like a margin of error because first of all, 0.8 is a big deal in my opinion.
I mean, it's basically like a whole letter grade,
Right.
You're going from a C to a B at this
Would you
point.
say like a 0.3 onwards would be like eye-opening?
Yeah, of course.
Like
'Cause,
eyebrow raising?
I mean, like, okay, us being Asian, there is a difference between an A minus and an A, right? Because
one is a fail and one is an A. So
right, so
yeah, exactly.
A is acceptable. A
Yeah.
minus is not acceptable.
Yeah, it's a minus in it. You don't
yeah.
like minuses.
Yeah, who wants to be a minus, dude?
Yeah, and plus makes you too arrogant.
Only positives here.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
Let's not get into that.
No, let's not get into that.
It's a very, very deep rabbit hole.
trauma. Okay, but
So, a massive increase in score compared to season 1. And the thing is, Tezuka Productions is not a bad studio, and this is not to throw any shade on Synergy SP either, but I wasn't even that invested or even interested in Girlfriend. I know you are. So what happened? What spiked this change?
So first of all, it's a very trashy show. It's an extremely trashy show. They know it.
I think any show with the word girlfriend in there tends to have a certain level of trash.
One begs to differ later on that we will talk about in a different sense of trashiness.
I mean, there's like girlfriend, rent-a-girlfriend, domestic girlfriend. One that we will be mentioning later. All of them seem to have a adequate to an atrocious amount of trash. Where does this sit in terms of the level of trash? Like, are there mice and fleas?
I only
like
saw
festering?
one domestic girlfriend episode, so
That was all you needed to see.
But it's like that to me is like queen status, right? That I don't think it can be dethroned in my mind. I think girlfriend is like that one girlfriend cousin that is like fun to hang out with, but it's just like
you don't know what she gets up to in the weekend.
I need to mentally prepare before, and then afterwards I need to recuperate. So Girlfriend Season 2 is interesting for several reasons, not only in the jump in score, but the different change of hands with studio. And I have to say that Synergy SB's production is better than Tezuka's production of it. The animation just looks more fluid.
It's actually, Tezuka Productions' production of it. It's a mouthful because the full name is Tezuka Production. But look, quality upgrade, massive upgrade. I mean, 0.8 point difference upgrade.
I just said, I think I wrote like a one-sentence description. Production values increased, shenanigans increased, the good kind of stupid has increased, and the fun factor has increased.
Right. So girlfriend is back at it. Like this is where it should be. This is where it should have been.
Yeah. It is extremely stupid. I will not fault anyone for not liking it or hating it, but I think it's a very fun show.
Right. So we have a show now that is kind of like in the mid-range of a 7. It's not the most exciting show, but it's definitely a show that, it wouldn't like completely bore you to tears. The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent Season 2.
Wait, don't you mean Omnipotent?
No, that's what you would say.
I know.
Based on a light novel of the same name by Yuka Tachibana, who did the story, and Yasuyuki Shuri, who did the art, published in English by Seven Seas and Seven Seas Entertainment, and the manga adaptation is published in English as well. Oh, actually, yeah. Both of them are, same thing. Season 1 premiered about 2 years ago in spring 2021, and was and still is produced by Studio Diamedia. So the season 1 score was a 7.29. Currently, its second season is running at a 7.46. So quite consistent. Definitely, an upgrade from the previous season, but it sounds like so far it's just doing enough to sort of steady the ship. It's if you already were interested or invested in Saint's Magic Power, you would be very much enjoying what you're seeing in season 2.
I think first of all, yes. Season 1 essentially revolves around the plight that the main character Sei is in, and at the end of season 1, essentially that whole issue gets resolved. Then season 2 comes around, and everything now is. It's like you've sown this, you've planted the seeds, and now they're all blossoming and growing. There is now political intrigue. There is now political factions. There is blossoming love, and things are now starting to get more serious. In other words, the ante has increased. The odds are stacked against our heroine and her fellow companions, and it is the same stuff, same shit, different day, but really good. And I really can't fault anyone who kind of gave up on season 1. But if you even like season 1, I can tell you that season 2 is more refined in terms of the storyline. Production value is exactly the same, which is always a good thing in this case. So there's really nothing to say other than it's good. Very good, actually.
Yeah. Now, I think that we're probably going to go into one more show before we go into a break. But the reason is I think that we want to give enough time to go over what, at least in my opinion, I think you might agree as well. There were a lot of series that are coming out for fall that were very, very hyped, that had a lot of esteem coming into fall. But I think the one series that had been on the back of a lot of people's minds for a very long time, and then all of a sudden that hype just blew into a completely different stratosphere. We're talking about the Netflix adaptation of Pluto, the very renowned, very esteemed manga series that is finally coming out with a full anime adaptation. Now, as of recording, the episodes have only just been released 2 days ago, but just to sort of give everyone an idea of what's been going on, the manga source, which came out almost like a decade, 2 decades ago, held a score of 8.62, ranked 79, popularity 105, so incredibly popular. The scores have just come in for the series at 8.78, very, very high. I think that the fans are happy because you've seen that with like Urusei Atsura, we saw with Shaman King, we saw with a few other comeback series that didn't really plan out its actual ascension from like just being laying dormant over the decades and just coming up with like a remaster or like a readaptation. This one seems to be, in a long time, the series that actually stuck the landing.
So I think before we go into my thoughts on it, we should talk about all of like the behind the scenes happenings because it's actually very relevant.
It's a crazy story.
So first of all, it is a Netflix exclusive, so there's only 8 episodes. That's not a lot, you might say.
They're all 1 fucking hour long.
And the first one is over an hour, the first episode. The second thing is it's a manga series done by Naoki Urasawa. That name is insane because of several manga properties that it's in a league of its own. First of all, let's talk about 20th Century Boys, okay? Then let's talk about Monster, okay? Done deal. Also, he obviously wrote Pluto along with Osamu Tezuka, who I think is originally affiliated with a certain... I don't know if we should mention that property.
Why?
Is this a spoiler? Okay, we'll avoid... Okay.
It's not really a spoiler because it is pivotal to the story. I get where you're coming from, but without mentioning it, it kind of does some disservice to why Pluto is even relevant in this day and age, even after like it's been out for so long.
Okay. I think anything that is like promotional material is fair game or like plot summary, but we will try our best to not spoil you.
I get you're trying to be a little conservative with how you talk about it. I think in this situation it's perfectly fine. Mention the boy.
It's Astro Boy, but grim and dark is essentially the concept of this story.
Tezuka did create Astro Boy, right?
Exactly.
Allegedly the first ever anime series to air on Japanese TV.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I definitely believe that.
I'm not an anime historian, even though we try to be. But yeah, we'll just go by what's on Wikipedia.
It is published in Viz Media, and they are all out already. I've read it from cover to cover, digitally speaking, a while ago, and I, sing it to high heavens. I gave it a 9 out of 10, and yeah, I think this anime kind of came out of nowhere because it was in development hell for literally years. Like years. It was announced years ago. Then almost out of nowhere, we heard an inkling somewhere. And then all of a sudden, within a span of several months ago, out of nowhere, it's like, yo, it's coming. Netflix got it. Oh, yeah, it's all 8 episodes. And they're each 1 hour. Get ready. Get ready to sit the fuck down and watch all of this. And here's the other thing. It is produced by a studio called Studio M2. And to my knowledge, this studio's first really big work is essentially this, Pluto. And my guess is, and this is like a really, of course, I think they did several stuff. I think they did a Godzilla one or something like that. But I think this one is kind of like...
Before they did like Uzutsumi, Sakura, Garo, they've done Onihei, they've done a few other things in the past. But like if it was to be like this is...
like their big showing.
This is like part of their resume. I think front and center will be Pluto. Because, I mean, outside of one show that we'll be talking about much later, as well as a Chinese animation called Tianguan Qiufu'er, which is the second season of it, Pluto is currently the highest scoring anime for this current season, outside of those other two shows.
And Beyond Journeys. And
that's
right?
That's what I said.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Literally what I said.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Okay. Here's the thing. My guess is Studio M2 is going to essentially be primed and ready to make 20th Century Boys. That is my super long shot speculation.
That is a big ass.
That is okay. Like there's no evidence of any sort. This is just my pure opinion based off of what I know and what I feel would happen.
Do you know how many comic book reader, how many ranker, how many fucking publications have been asking and calling for a 20th Century Boys adaptation? That's a big ask, I have to say. But do you think that, given what Pluto is currently doing, remember, as a recording, it's only been out for 2 days. Do you think it's already done enough to be like, yeah, you know what, we're ready to take up the mantle of 20th Century Boys? In your opinion, of course, right? Regardless of what anyone else thinks or says.
Will, I think your biggest manga by this mangaka is Monster, right?
Yep.
And we both love Monster, and I think you only read it and watched it intermittently, but mostly
I watched like one episode, which felt like 10 hours.
Okay.
It was very slow.
That's extremely important. Will, what is your take on the pace of that?
Oh, man. It's hard because I'm coming from a manga perspective, which you've acknowledged already, right?
Yep.
As slow as it is, the amount of tension and uneasiness that festers as you go from page to page slowly but surely ramps up. And as slow as the pace is, you can't help but just flip the next page and just keep reading and reading and reading. And by the time it's literally just a crescendo. It starts off low and slow, and by the time you're done reading however many volumes, 27 volumes, something like that, it is just amazing from cover to cover. Pluto, on the other hand, is short,
8
much
volumes.
Shorter.
So they basically did one episode per volume, adapted all of it.
Which is why they needed to do an hour plus for each episode.
Absolutely. And the problem I guess I have is, let me just give you my score right now. It is a 10 out of 10. It is probably, I haven't given a 10 out of 10 in a while. It is a 10 out of 10 show, despite me giving the manga a 9 out of 10. Okay? And however, I think it's a show that is not for everyone, particularly because of the pace. It's a very old school, almost like a sleuth detective, because it follows essentially a detective trying to solve a string of murders. I'll just be vague about about that. And you uncover it over the span of essentially 8 to 8.5, 9 hours, something like that. All 8 episodes. It is a complete story from beginning to end. They adapt everything fully. There is no sequel, Pluto 2. There is no manga sequel. None of that. So
there's no like missing chapters episode, right? Like it's not going to go like in the in-betweens, like Ranking of Kings-esque.
Yeah, there is no sequel where it's like Pluto, but this time it is not a planet anymore. We lost that right.
Yeah, so they're going for a dwarf now instead.
Yeah. But it is extremely beautiful. So beautiful.
So where did that 1 point differential come from in terms of your thoughts of the manga versus what you've seen so far, or at least what you've watched of the anime adaptation?
Seeing it animated.
Is that all it really is?
The quality of M2, obviously this is kind of like his first major showing, is extremely impressive. If you were to have this in like 4K and have like... So the music is insane. It's not like this Euro beat, whatever. It's like horns like trumpets. It's almost like Dick Tracy-esque noir, because that's the tone. So then that's what they did.
Right. Are you giving it an extra point based on the fact that this is like M2's first major work?
No.
Right. Because I was just gonna say, like, if, for example, like UFO Table or What Studio or someone else did it, and it's the exact same thing, but it was a different studio, would you still give it a 10 out of 10?
I mean, it's difficult because I can't say there's no bias, right? But I can at least say confidently that I tried to minimize any amount of previous bias whatsoever and try to assess the show coming in despite knowing the source material and the pedigree of the mangaka and everything.
So would you comfortably say then that regardless of which studio did it, right, whether it was M2 or...
But if it looked like that.
If it still looked like that, the sound was still the same, everything, it's just a different studio, would it still be a 10 out of 10?
Very likely.
Yeah, okay. So it's not even just M2, but the fact that M2, this is their first showing.
In fact, I would say that's even more impressive.
That gives it like a little sauce on top, right? Just it's that little extra be like, wow, I can't believe they fucking did that.
Let me put it this way. If M2's next work was announced off the bat, off rip, without even thinking, I would definitely check it out. Whether I like it or not, it's a different thing.
Goblin Slayer Season 3.
I'll check it out. Honestly,
all right.
It has a pass in my book already, like a get out of jail free card. It doesn't mean it's exempt. It just means that instantly, at least I will check it out. It will raise my eyebrow. I'll be like, oh right, that studio that did Pluto and pretty much nothing else before that.
Now, one thing you mentioned before as well was pacing, which is, you've read the manga and now you've watched, or I mean, how much of the anime have you watched? All, right? So, of course, it's going to be different to compare the mediums.
I mean, I sacrificed not watching other seasonals because I wanted to finish Pluto. That was how much I liked
9 hours is dedication there, right? But again, like in terms of like the actual pacings, you mentioned that as something that may deter people from watching the series. Is it very similar in terms of how it's paced in the manga? I know it's not like for like. You can't compare a manga to an anime in terms of pacing, but they have that similar kind of vibe where it's like it's a slow burn, but once you get to the end, it's like
so slow, dude. Like, I mean, it's a noir. It's like slowly piecing and the build up. Okay, the way I watched it, obviously, because it came out several days ago as of recording, I watched it in literally 2 to 3 sittings, and I do know the source material, so there is like that. There isn't that like suspension of like not knowing what happens next. Is more like seeing it happen and unfold in front of you.
Yeah, because that could also have an effect on how you perceive the series as well. It's the same way where it's
a
like,
future BP that I'm thinking about, by the way.
It's like if you've already read the manga, like what more can an anime add outside of voices and color and animation? But I think that
all that essentially,
like that's kind of it. But you already, I think the key thing as well is the plot, which is if you already go into a series knowing the plot, right? Like, would it have an effect on how you perceive the series? I know you said you wanted to maybe talk about it as a VP, so you don't have to go that deep into it. But you mentioned you tried not to carry in any preconceived notions when trying to judge an anime. And was that something?
Well, I try my best.
Was it something you took into consideration as well? Having already read the manga, that you needed to try and distance yourself from it to fully appreciate the anime?
If I have to be very honest, before watching a single episode, because obviously I did not know the score as it was unfolding, because I literally waited until 3 p.m. to watch it, because it's Pacific time midnight before it gets released. Yeah. I had to Google that.
Yeah.
And so I did not know the score or the reception of everyone. I was just watching it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by 3 sittings is essentially 1 sitting, but I had to go to the bathroom. I considered doing a Gatorade bottle thing.
No.
I didn't do that, obviously, but, here's the thing. Do not watch it like that. Do not. Especially if you do not know the source material, because each episode is so densely packed. Well, you said parallel to the manga, right? It's almost weird when you describe it kind of like, I would describe each episode like a tome, and you have to flip through the pages, and it's each page, the weight of it, even though it's light, even though it's in front of you, it's weightless. It is so heavy, jam-packed with figuring out how things are, despite the simple premise. And it really is one of those things where, like, if you think about it, spend some time and think about it, because it is set in a time about robots and AI, and robot rights.
What a time to
and what a
release
time
series.
to release the fucking series. It's like someone aligned all the stars and planned for this moment to occur at this point in time.
Somewhere in the background, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are like, yes, things are coming
And
together.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So despite all the episodes coming out like instantly, right? Like on Netflix, that's been a Netflix model. You shouldn't treat it as a binge series.
It is too difficult to treat as a binge series.
Like you wouldn't like be like, oh, don't absolutely do it. Like, you want to do it, then do it.
Yeah,
but
you have the freedom and the right to. But if I can only imagine, because I couldn't, if I did not know the source material, it would be too intense and too slow for me to like. I would need a break. Like it's one of those, like it shows. I know this comparison was going to drive people crazy, but it really reminded me of a certain live action movie and a certain comic book series with a movie. No Country for Old Men and Watchmen. Because those two shows, or those two movies, the pace of it, the atmosphere, the vibe, and it being very slow, not really spelling it out for you or piecing it together as the main character pieces it together as a detective, is extremely fulfilling. And it's kind of insane to see Astro Boy reimagined in like this dark, grim timeline kind of thing. I will not stop saying high praises, especially also during the topic of discussion in modern society at this point in time.
Top 3 recommendation this season?
Top 1.
The one.
The one.
Wow.
But I don't think it would be the one for everyone.
Right. But the ones who do want to venture into it or like have been waiting for a long time to get into it.
Like a retro anime.
They will absolutely not be disappointed at all. Like this is like the anime to watch if you're up for it.
I will end on this note. We like to shit on a lot of Netflix exclusive animes for a lot of good reason, I think.
I'd say like they have a better track record for sure recently, but for sure like it's like whenever you see something that's like attached to Netflix, you're kind of like, this is going to be interesting. Whether or not it's their own doing. I mean, like for example, like Uncle from Another World, right? That was definitely not just like a Netflix thing. It was just a whole, a bunch of shenanigans that happened every now and then.
Unfortunate circumstances.
But in the end, it's still a good series, right? But regardless of all that, right?
What
Regardless of it being like a Netflix series, don't use that to cloud your judgment of what Pluto is and will be. Just watch it for yourself and be prepared to be amazed if you're ready for it.
If I ever need, I'll end on this note before we get into the break. If I ever need to convince someone of the repertoire or the reputation of Netflix anime in the current lifetime, there's only 3 shows right away to mention: Violet Evergarden, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and Pluto. That's it. End of story. Done deal.
That's a pretty big Mount Rushmore there. All you need is a fourth one now. Yeah.
Yeah. I really think Pluto is an amazing show. If you like things like Monster, if you kind of look at the modern anime sensibilities and be like, I'm very nostalgic for that old retro slow.
Plus, if you're a fan of like the manga itself, like what are you waiting for?
What the fuck are you waiting for?
Damn, that's pretty high praise. I'm glad we actually ended on that, for the first part. Because,
it's insane because I was expecting this to be good, but I didn't expect it to really blow me away or sway me that much, especially of all the other shows that we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah, it's a stacked season, but for something to come out as like an original net animation on Netflix that, yes, it has its own pedigree for being like a historic manga that came out from a historic mangaka.
It could have shit the bed so badly.
Yeah, especially, like, as you mentioned, right? M2, who the hell are they, right?
Production held for literally half a decade, if not more. And then came out of nowhere, and then Netflix saying like, yo, bro, we got you. And then that being like, I don't know if you got them though, but okay, let's see how it goes. Thoroughly impressed either way.
Well, let's wait for 3 years and see if Netflix and M2 come back together to try and put together a 20th Century Boys adaptation. Do you think that'll happen? Do you think it will be a Netflix exclusive?
Look, that would be a very awesome reveal.
Prophecy?
At a later date, a prophecy. I'm just shooting in the dark. But I feel,
but you see no reason why it wouldn't get adaptation now. If they could do this to Pluto, what couldn't they do with? Okay,
why do Pluto? That's my question. And why kind of make a semi-new studio and have this be its first showing? That's why I'm like so suspicious of Well, then what else do they need to do?
But then you probably think back. It's like, despite the production hell, despite the fact that there was a lot of like overbearing hype that could have derailed the train, like it seemed that from the get go they knew what they were doing.
It's like a Ufotable situation of like, oh, you announced it? Okay, I'll see you 3 years from now, I guess. But like, okay, you're good. We good. We're ready when it's ready.
Well, right off the bat, we have our first major hardcore recommendation for the anime season of fall 2023. But don't worry, we are going to be going into a break, and right after that, we'll be going into a lot of the new series, so non-sequels, non-ONAs, well, maybe some ONAs. But yeah, stay tuned. We'll get that to you in just a couple seconds.
Peace. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the second half of episode 70 of the Good Anime Palette Podcast, where we go over fall 2023's lineup. I am Jason. Will's here checking his phone. We found out a number of things in the middle of the break, such as the fact that I actually have to go to the bathroom sometimes instead of just binging Pluto.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm not leaving a Gatorade bottle in my room, so don't count on that, okay?
I mean, I don't want to resort to that, but I did consider it at that time, in that
Speaking
moment.
of, you ever drank the yellow flavor of Gatorade?
I fucking hate
It's
that.
disgusting.
I'm all about fruit punch and the blue.
Okay, but are you Team Red or Team Blue?
I'm always fruit punch.
Oh, Team Blue for me. Even Powerade.
I don't like Powerade.
I only got it because it was like 10 cents cheaper than Gatorade when I was in college. That's the only reason why I got it over Gatorade.
I understand. Sometimes,
Hey, what a broke college student got to do what a broke college student got to do.
hey, I can respect that.
Right. So we went over some of the sequels, some of the stuff that we didn't really want to talk about, as well as probably one of the biggest gangbusted series to air this season, Pluto. We're now going into the new shows for fall 2023.
And what best news show to start off with after the highs of Pluto to the lows of Undead Unluck? Probably
Now,
the hottest take from your GAP bros this episode.
Yeah, so just some background information. Undead Unluck is based on the ongoing manga series of the same name by Yoshifumi Tozuka, who did both the story and the art. It is simulpubbed in English through Manga Plus, and they have been released and published in English by Viz Media under Shonen Jump since May 4th, 2021. Now, I tend to give this series a bit of stick, despite the fact that it's produced by David Productions, and I really do like that as a studio.
Who's David Productions? Who's David?
Oh, David's this guy who seems to have an infatuation with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They only just done all the adaptations for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, so it's Sea Dog VA.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, the anime has...
His name's not David, by the way. It's Connor.
I know.
Yeah.
Because it's Sea Dog. Right. Anime of Undead Unluck has a current mouse score of 8.00, popularity 1670, rank 603, and the source is a 7.39.
So there are two things that immediately strike me when seeing the score differential. One, seems that people really, really like this series. But two, I feel like the ones who gave this a high score never even heard of or never read the manga in the first place. And now this is not to discredit the series itself. It's popular for a reason. What is it? Oh, it's about a dude that has the powers of the undead. They just cannot die. And then there's also another character who just seems to be very unlucky. Hence why the series is called Undead Unluck. The only way that this undead main character can unlock his powers is if he grabs his hands onto certain body parts of this unlucky character.
Okay, so generally yes. So Fuko, the name of the girl, her okay, so in this world, if you have superpowers, because it's like My Hero Academia, you're exiled, you're fucked, because they don't want you to wreak havoc. They're just like, I don't want superheroes, I don't want supervillains, game over, go away. Fuko has the unlucky ability of anyone who touches her just vehemently dies, includes her family and her friends. So she's been shunned. She hates her life because she is the living embodiment of death in many ways. Meanwhile, you get
just purely like extreme misfortune.
So she was about to
Off herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at that moment, one of another person, who they kind of just named Andy, his ability is he can never die, but he wants to die. But obviously they're being chased by this anti-superpower organization, and it's their shenanigans. So that premise sounds okay, right? So far. The groping thing and the touching thing is because Andy is just a degenerate, and Fuko is trying her best in an unfortunate circumstance. I don't fucking know. Okay, so
I think this is one of those kinds of testosterone-filled, like, this is something you see off of Spike TV. You remember Spike TV in your college days?
like G4.
Yeah.
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 Attack of the Show.
Yeah, like back
Like
then.
I'll lick the PSP kind of thing.
There's a lot of the old school, like man show. Do you remember Mansers?
Isn't that Joe Rogan? Isn't Joe Rogan do something there?
No, Joe Rogan used to do the Man Show, which is originally done by Jimmy Kimmel and Andy, someone else. I forgot his name. Very, very, very misogynistic, derogatory show. Like that's just,
And they went to Hooters and shit like that, probably.
there was one episode where they did some derogatory shit at Hooters, but that's
completely not good.
So this is kind of how I feel this series like would have aired back in like 2004. It totally would have been on like Spike TV, like legitimately in between. Like, I mean, the main commercials they had were big-breasted women holding 2 big jugs of beer. That's kind of what
While swirling around a bar stool.
Yeah,
I remember that footage.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that when I see some of the manga panels of Undead Unluck, that's how that's how I vibe with it. Now,
You're not that far off, by the way.
now that's not to say that it's a terrible. I mean, clearly, like a 7.39 for the main source, as well as a flat 8 right now for the anime adaptation. It's clearly doing the numbers. I think it's like fine to say that it is rubbing some people the right way. It's definitely garnering a lot of eyes, for a specific reason. And I'm not going to fault them for that. If you know something works, why not lean into it?
So, Will and I, throughout the existence of knowing Undead Unluck, has been very firm in the camp of fuck this noise, this shit is bad. Now, I did the service of, the weebdom to watch not only one episode, but multiple episodes of Undead Unluck. And I'm going to report the following, which is, I do not know how to feel about this show. The first thing is, off the rip, the groping thing, according to I didn't care about being spoiled, and I don't think this is necessarily a spoiler because this is going to be like a red flag for a lot of people. First of all, it is not okay. And if you don't like that premise, apparently that eases off and it becomes like not that anymore.
Oh, but Jason, it's just, boys being boys. It's locker room talk,
But
you never done that before back in your day and all that? Look, whatever kind of perceptions you have about sexuality, misogyny, and whatnot, or how people should be treating each other, there is a limit to what is deemed funny and then what is deemed offensive.
And the thing also is, when we talk about anime, there is a plethora, a huge assortment of very edgy and or offensive and or explicit or degenerate stuff.
I mean,
that is way worse.
We spent 2 hours in the last episode talking about harems.
Yes. So in many ways, a lot of other shows, in terms of what they are showing and content-wise, I would argue in a certain way is worse.
It's the same or worse. Yeah, I agree.
But the way that it is conveyed is very important context. And the way that it is conveyed here, which to my knowledge is very accurate to the manga, it is played for laughs, and it makes Fuko very uncomfortable and unwilling participant. And yes, it doesn't go anything beyond a certain kind of crime, I guess, because you can technically get worse. I don't really want to get into that, but it's very uncomfortable if you don't like it, and I think a lot of people do not like it. And Will and I are two of those people. And if you don't like it, there is I'm telling you right now, despite the score of it being an 8, there is zero problems with you not watching the show, not giving a shit. It's all good.
Now, on the other hand, it getting an 8 out of 10 so far, it must mean that there is a large diaspora of people that actually do like the show.
And
for
multiple
good or for bad.
And multiple episodes, right? So it's not just like, oh, the first initial score and then it drops or increases. It actually increased. So that's telling. So I checked it out.
Yeah, our opinions of what we think about the show and how we feel about certain topics is definitely like not going to vie with everybody. And like Jason said, we have watched much worse shit in terms of certain derogatory themes, certain misogynistic themes, right?
Or explicit or violent themes.
And we're no saints here, right? We're not trying to say that, like, oh, all of this is terrible, it goes against the laws of God or morality and whatnot. Like, no, we're not preaching to that choir. What we are saying, though, is that in this particular instance, it just doesn't come off as something that we want to vibe with. Because most of the time, at least there's, like, if something is funny enough, I don't necessarily care how offensive it is. It's just that in this situation, I don't find it funny. I just find it offensive.
Now, the general tone of the show, and when I read some kind of forum posts and some reviews, first of all, a lot of reviews, they kind of have this kind of like precaution, like, and almost all of them say the same thing, which is very indicative of the type of content if you watch Undead Unluck, which is that groping, sexual, I don't know, what would you call it, sexual assault in many ways, unconsensual touching, is totally not okay.
In some states, it'd be considered battery.
Yeah, like almost all like official, like quote unquote official critics are like not okay with that. That is like very universal. So good on everyone for calling shit out when it needs to be done. However, I think a lot of people then and I was in a similar camp of like, I don't condone any of this, but why is this either a lot of people consider it fun, or if I look past it, what is there? Like, why is it generating this amount of reception?
Hype,
right? And I could say that, in a way, it is very good news because David Productions did produce the shit out of this. It is extremely entertaining in a sense of it's self-aware. The manga is very juvenile, and they even have a flag at one point saying how juvenile it's like a meta commentary on itself. So it's very clear that it's deliberate, which also makes
it's knowingly pushing the boundaries, and you have to appreciate that at some extent.
And it's not panty and stocking garter belt, because I would say that's way more offensive in many different aspects.
But I absolutely love panty stocking, and
me too. But here it is, and yeah, it has violence like Dorohedoro kind of like blood fountains. It has like good animation because it's David fucking Productions.
Yeah, you're making it sound like this is a series that a lot of people are going to like because you kind of know which demographic this is targeting,
and it shows, right? So
they found a formula that works and they're leaning into it. So I have no problem with that whatsoever.
I mean, when Andy walks around naked, they put like a sensor for his dong, and it's not just there. It's kind of like high school DxD where it flops around and shit. Like, it's kind of funny, but it's like super juvenile and immature, and also the show knows it and says it, like acknowledges it, or like, hey, can you not show me your dong while we're driving this motorcycle? He's like, why the fuck not, while I hold this flag that says like juvenile content rules or whatever. It's that kind of show.
Yeah. So look, there's definitely a large audience that really likes this series. Jason and I are not part of it, but we're also not going to stand in its way and let it succeed. I think that with what's been on air for this series, it deserves to be where it is because it's clearly targeting itself to a specific demographic that doesn't include us.
Yeah, it's just not for me. But I can see the questionable content aside, there is a lot of praise that I can give on the production side. But I would argue that if you really want that kind of gusto and energy, but you don't like the premise, just watch any Studio Trigger property. That was the one thought that was in my mind constantly, was like Gurren Lagann was like that, Kill la Kill was like that, but better.
Or just watch the Monogatari series.
No, but yeah, because
there's a lot.
It's not that bombastic. The energy thing.
Okay, fine. Watch Nisei Monogatari then.
No, but that's just straight up crime. That's
Yeah.
like criminal at that point.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It has to go into the extremes both ways, right?
I mean, am I being like hypocritical in many ways, or kind of contradicting myself?
We are absolutely being hypocritical.
But as critics, consumers, or you guys as well are critics and consumers, I don't stand for this show. I get why this show is successful and good, and I can kind of respect it in that sense. But that's all it gets.
I mean, quite clearly, like with a show of this kind of premise, it would be crazy to not welcome some sort of criticism for it, right? Like you have you have to be very baseless to just look at it and be like, no, there's nothing wrong with this series.
Yeah, and what is Dave Red Production going to do? Not have those premises in, and then
like water it down?
You're not being faithful.
I feel that would be even more egregious if they were just actually tone down the level of sexual quote unquote violence that they have in it.
Then why adapt it? Like a lot of people would say that, and I think that's a fair thing to say at that point, right? So it's kind of like it is what it is. So fine, but I really don't like it. I gave it the 3-episode rule or whatever you want to call it. How many episodes? I kind of just blanked out, honestly.
Yeah, but look. Good enough for a lot of people. That's the main thing. What we're going to do now is we're going to dial it down from the degeneracy. And, well, actually, we're not really dialing down from any level. We're moving into a different form of degeneracy and going into the 100 girlfriends that really, 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 really love you.
All right. We talked about this show many times, not only because I read the manga a while ago and wanted to talk about it, then we talked about it for ASAP. It is based on the manga series of the same name by Rikito Nakamura, who did the story, and Yukiko Nozawa, who did the art, published in English by Seven Seas Entertainment. I think Volume 7 came out recently. I purchased that. Produced by Biblery Animation Studios.
Which is the interesting thing, because in our anime retrospective, Biblery did not do very well with a lot of adaptations that they've done.
Here's the crazy part. The manga has... actually, that's not the crazy part. The manga has a source score of 7.82.
The crazy part is...
the anime has a score of 8.03.
We were both very hesitant about how this would be adapted, especially when we were talking about it in our ASAP episode.
And both of us didn't even put it on our lineup very consciously. It was like available, up for grabs, but both of us were just like, nah, bro. No. It's too risky of a play. And I needed to know, because not only did I love the manga, but I thought in many ways, and I think you would agree, Will, for ASAP, when we talked about it, we did not know how the adaptation was going to pan out, because it could be good, but it could also be like horrendous.
I mean, we see a lot of these series that, you know, end up like, again, we talked about the girlfriend syndrome, right? Like it could easily have been an 8 or a 9. It could also just as easily have been a 5 or a 6.
Then when you say, oh, Biblery Animation Studios is going to animate, no, not necessarily throwing shade at them per se, but
we're going off of facts.
Yeah, but off the bat, this is not like, oh, if I hear A1 or Mappa or KyoAni or Studio Trigger, it invokes a certain amount of image, reputation, whatever. And then there is like, on the other end, there's like Project Number 9 or, you know.
I think even if like A1 was to adapt 100 Girlfriends, I would still be hesitant. But I'm also happy to be...
I'll be like, what are you doing, A1?
I'm also happy to be proven wrong, because the fact that there's a lot of people that do really like this series.
And I really like this series. And I think if you watch it, Will, we were both proven severely wrong about... Or it's one of those things where as I was watching like the couple episodes, I was extremely elated. Because it was a very, very good adaptation.
One of the things that I was worried about in terms of how it would be adapted is how they would be able to convey the level of comedy they had. Because I feel like sometimes whenever you have comedic bits that are in manga, it is a little bit hard to translate on screen, especially if there's like wordplay or if there are like certain puns they use, or like certain slapstick is like better achieved from one panel to another as opposed to like fluid animation. You know what I mean? So I was like, I wasn't so sure if
it's a different medium.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure if they would be able to like actually be able to get that on screen. But you also gave this the 3-episode rule, or did you watch more of it?
I mean, I'm gonna finish. I think episode 4 is coming out today as of recording.
Okay.
So my waifu hasn't shown up yet.
Oh, I think we're a long way from that, right?
No. It's the 4th one.
The fourth. How many? Wait.
They're on the 3rd.
What's the pacing for this? Because I felt like it. Oh wait, no, I didn't actually read that much. Yeah, I only read like.
You
volume.
You like the bookworm, right?
Yeah, I read the volume. So actually, no, you're right. She should be showing up pretty quickly. Again, sorry if it spoils you, but hey, look, there's 100 of them. There's going to be many more to see.
Also, we technically just said an archetype. We didn't say anything else. Okay.
Plus, we also talked about it as well in our ASAP.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, you can't really spoil the comedy because let me tell you, the timing is impeccable for the VAs. Very good chemistry. I think that's the thing that when you say, how do you translate words or panels or word plays and puns to the screen, it kind of has a lot of onus on the chemistry of the voice cast as well as obviously the voice cast director and the director, right?
Plus the script as well, yeah.
Absolutely. So production-wise, extremely fluid, vibrant colors, very well done.
Which, again, I would not have expected from Bipri.
Very impressive. And the thing is that, bro, let me tell you, the voice cast, I want to, like, my perfect fantasy is, like, they're just having a blast recording. That's how I feel, honestly. It's kind of one of those things where I'm pretty sure that's the case. I have no basis, but it just gives you that feeling.
It's a slightly degen but fun and comfy manga, and so it's good to see that the adaptation itself does it quite faithfully as well.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, when they say, oh, check out chapter 2, this is like the meta fourth wall breaking. They do that, but like, check out 2 episodes ago, remember this? And then they do as good of a job as you can be to translate those over into the screen, into animation. And also, at least from the subtitles, they are on point with the lingo. All right, it's kind of dumb. I kind of dig it.
Now you're giving this a early preemptive score of an 8.5 out of 10
because I don't know the end result of how I feel if it would be an 8 or a 9.
But at the minimum, you feel it's going to be an 8, unless something like drastic happens and it changes your opinion of it. But the way it's currently pacing itself right now, this should be a solid series.
Yeah, I mean, of course, anything can kind of switch off on a dime and things can shift. But based on what I've seen, what I know, it is firmly 8+. And it is one of those shows that you might write off on the premise. I don't fault you for that. But,
I mean, it's goofy as fuck.
But it is extremely fun. It's one of those where, like, if it wasn't an anime or a manga light novel and it was like a live action, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work in any other medium, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So even if you have, like, maybe your preconceived, like, prejudices or notions of what something girlfriend series is, whether it's domestic girlfriend, rent a girlfriend, and now 100 girlfriends, maybe put that aside and give this a shot.
Absolutely. Very high recommend for me, yeah.
Now moving on to the next series, which I'm not super familiar with, so I'll let Jason take the floor on this one. Tearmoon Empire.
It is based on the light novel series of the same name by Nozomu, Mochizuki.
There you go.
Because Tsuki's the moon, right, got it. And Gilse, who did the art, Gilse is the spelling. Published in English by J Novel Club. Manga adaptation also published by J Novel Club. Produced by Silverlink. The light novel has a source score of 7.78. The anime 7.40.
So this is one of the first series we're talking about today where the current adaptation source is lower, maybe not super low, but definitely lower than the original source. Now I'm a little bit like impartial to Silverlink. I'm not like the biggest fan of their works, but they don't do much wrong. You know, they're a fine studio. But I'm not going to use that as a way to say like maybe that's why the score is a bit lower than the original. But you watched it, so what are your 2 cents on Tearmoon Empire?
I also read the manga, and that's where I got exposed. Originally, it was on the short list for ASAP. So it was. I am definitely a fan of the manga. Gave it an 8 out of 10, I think. So let me pose this image in front of you, Will. You know the phrase "failing upwards" or "task tasks failed successfully.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. That kind of. And then if you mix it in with like Marie Antoinette, which I think a lot of critics also use that parallel, and your main heroine being a loli tsundere, and it has a second chance kind of repeat. Essentially, in one timeline, our main heroine, she's the princess that has been overthrown, and she's about to be guillotined, hence the Marie Antoinette. Yet, the moment she gets sliced, she teleports back in time to when she was a toddler and somehow has the diary that she wrote when she was in her jail cell ready to be executed. And she's like, well, I have a second chance. I'm not going to fuck this up. And you might be like, oh, okay, it's a redemption, villainous isekai type thing. Yeah, sure. Except, no, because she is a brat. She doesn't give a fuck about everyone else, really, other than her own preservation. I mean, she does have heart. I'll give her that.
I mean, she is a tsundere, right?
Very tsundere.
Like, how else would you, like, write her character? That if she's going to be a tsundere, she gonna do tsundere shit.
I mean, she's like a 12... Like, she's, like, in, like, middle school, high school, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
she's
she's a little shit.
She's a little bratty little bitch. But, hey, if you have second chance... It's like in Back to the Future 2 with Biff, right? If you have the almanac, this is that story. So even if, like, you are Biff and in Back to the Future 2 and you're massively successful now, imagine a princess trying to escape death. So
it's like, imagine watching like an old school like football TV show or movie, and the coach gives you the ball, gives the quarterback the ball, and the coach goes, "Don't fuck this up." And what do? They fuck it up. This kind of sounds like...
No, but imagine in that scenario, what happened is like, okay, wait, say that scenario again, and I'll give you the Tearmoon Empire version of it.
Hey, you, don't fuck this up, okay? It's your one shot. Don't fuck this
No,
up.
but
again.
am I the kicker or the quarterback?
You're the quarterback.
And what is like the last play?
Yeah, last play, you're 6 points down. You got to throw a touchdown and make sure that you win, the national championships of that year. Yeah.
Okay. So, the ball gets hiked to me, right?
Yeah.
I'm about to throw it, and then my hands slip, and I just throw it.
You wet spaghetti it.
Yeah. However, it arcs way over, and it just so happens to hit a bird, which then happens to...
and that bird was teleported from another world.
Yeah, and then a lot of people are clamoring for it, but because it hit the bird fell on the ground, and a lot of people slipped, so then... it then became a miraculous play, and then you are now the hero of the school, the talk of the town. That is Tearmoon Empire's premise in a nutshell, because all she wants to do is be very self-centered and do whatever she takes to survive, but in doing so, she makes everyone around her be like, oh my god, she is amazing. She is... Later on, it's not spoilers because they call her that later on. She went from being the shitty, bratty, like princess spoiled that no one wants to talk to now be labeled as the sage of the kingdom.
Right. So you're into watching a series about a prissy little prat successfully failing along the way, but somehow managing to ascend her way to a redemption. Like this is what you're in for.
And it's really funny. It's lighthearted. It is one of those where it probably won't be on your high to watch list.
You're a little bit more reserved in terms of your initial impressions, or at least like what score you would give it at this stage, right? 7.5 to 8. Like it's good, but like there may still be something out there that is better for your time.
I mean, when we say a studio like Silverlink, all I can say is they did their job.
Yep.
And that's both a compliment and an insult at the same time, because it's good in terms of the quality and the production, but that's it. It's not like outstanding. It's not like you're going to look at that and be like, wow, look at that fluid ass animation. Look at those colors, voice acting, whatever. It's just, that's a very anime ass presentable anime with a very interesting kind of weird premise. And it's kind of fun, lighthearted. That's it.
Nice. Now, moving on to a series where, the studio or studios have not just done a job, but done a very good job, the Apothecary Diaries. This is a series that we also covered in our ASAP, our most recent one, ASAP 3, based on a light novel of the same name by Natsu Hyuga and illustrated by Tokushino. The manga was adapted and published in English by Square Enix since December 2020. It's also digital through Square Enix's Manga Up platform, which, fuck them. It's a shit platform. So
Fuck you.
Yeah, the first 3 episodes were premiered in a week. So not even just like, oh, here's a debut episode. No, here's 3 right off the bat. And then it will be like a full continuous 2 curs, 24 episodes in total, a co-production between both Toho Animation Studio and OLM.
Has light novel source score of 8.32.
Get this, anime score 8.57.
Rank 97. Woo!
Very, very high. Top 100. To debut into this season. Now, I read about a volume of the manga. Jason has read much more, and I would assume that he's also watched those 3 episodes that just dropped out of nowhere.
I did. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, based on how we felt, or at least how I felt when we were talking about Apothecary Diaries during our ASAP discussion, it's a very well-written series based on a sort of like fictionalized version of old kingdom life, focusing on a girl who was working to become an herbologist or like just someone to do with medicines and poisons and whatnot.
Like apothecary.
Yeah, but that was the word.
Yep.
Yeah. Then ends up because of the fact that people were poor as fuck back then. They kind of then got into being enslaved. Would you say enslaved is the right word?
No, she just got kidnapped.
Yeah, and then she basically now works as one of the the servants of this massive kingdom.
And then somehow she gets landed and discovers that CSI in Imperial Palace fictional China is a thing. So that is Apothecary Diaries. It's a mixture of imperial historical drama and CSI.
Yeah, some CSI, some slapstick, a lot of comedy, a lot of sort of like undertones of like relationship or romance tensions
And pretty boys.
Yeah, it's very
one pretty boy.
one very very pretty boy, Jinji, and look, main character Mao Mao. So you're gonna find that there's a good mixture of Chinese names because this is set in Imperial China, but also some Japanese names in there too because there was a lot of conflict between the Chinese and the Japanese back then.
So far, very little Japanese names.
I mean, the Battle of Manchuria happened during that time.
Absolutely. No, 100%, right? But
So in terms of like some historical accuracy, yeah, it's there, but like don't take this as like something that actually happened.
Super fictional, bro. Or it's like they take liberties, right? The thing that I want to mention is they don't really go, and I think the manga also didn't do that as well. They didn't go into a lot of the Imperial Palace happenings and how things work. Things that I think Will and I have an extra advantage of knowing or being exposed through osmosis or watching a lot of Imperial Palace drama that I think a lot of Western audiences, especially outside of Asia, will not grasp. And they mention it, they know, what it is. Like, what's the Gongong's, it's like starts with E, that English name, like eunuch?
Oh, the eunuch.
Eunuch, right? They don't really go into that. They mention it offhand.
Actually, yeah, it was actually for me like very surprising that people didn't know what eunuchs are, and then it turns out actually, yeah, eunuchs weren't very much a common thing outside of like Asia.
Yeah, so it's common knowledge for Will and I think a lot of people living in Asia, but I think for the West they have no idea, and rather than boring everyone with facts, they mention the bare bone details. Don't insult or offend the history and the terminology, but it's just like, help, here's a thing. He is one of those. Move on. End of story. And the comedy hits very well. I have to say, it looks fucking gorgeous. I keep saying that constantly. I think this is the most beautiful show of the season.
I mean, OLM has been doing some pretty good work recently, and Toho Animations is a very steady, consistent studio.
I mean, Summertime Render, right?
Yeah.
Look fucking phenomenal. And I think this is like as sharp as that.
Oof.
But even
I would need to watch it to
but
to be a
even
judge,
grander because it has like the Imperial Palace, like
it's unfair because you're talking
unfair.
you're talking about like ancient imperial like civilization
And
back then where it's like a lot of grand infrastructure.
and you mix it in with like the guzhang and all that stuff when they reveal like the Chinese instruments when they reveal like the essentially the not Tiananmen Square but like the square,
Yeah, the courtyard. Yeah.
the courtyard, and it's just breathtaking in a way.
Now, as with every adaptation, right, there has to be, I guess, a discussion about pacing. So the story itself, when it plays out in the manga, is steady. It's not super slow, but I think it is slow just because it is like a imperial drama-esque kind of like setting. So you're not going to be like going through fast-paced action and whatnot. Do you feel that it's a similar pace in the anime? Because it can be a little bit like you might hit some doldrums along the way if things are a little bit too slow paced.
I'll tell you right now, being somewhat cryptic, each episode is one case.
So actually, that's quite fast.
Yes.
Compared to what's in the manga.
Yeah. And I think the thing is that Mao Mao's a very good character, very well written character in the manga. And in the anime, I hope you like a lot of internal monologue because that's what Mao Mao does. She's an extremely intelligent, aware of like the social hierarchies, and is just a smart individual. And it's very refreshing to have a perspective like that and actually seeing how she kind of pieces things together. Not like how Pluto does it, but it's kind of like she eyes something, she sees it, and then she gives the explanation. And then you can be like, oh, so that's how her mind works. That's how Mao Mao thinks. Oh, I see. That's actually quite smart. Or like she is very, like lawful neutral-esque, where like she believes in certain things and will vouch for it. But if...
I mean, you say lawful neutral, but she used to spend her youth...
Maybe like chaotic neutral.
She's chaotic neutral because she used to spend her youth testing out poisons on herself by legitimately getting snake bites and just seeing how she reacts to them. Hence why, okay, spoiler, hence why she's immune to poisons.
She's a very real, like a very, grounded in reality. Like, just because you don't like it doesn't mean that, like, that's just the way shit works. Like, even I don't like it, but fuck am I gonna do, right? So, we have said actually a lot about the anime without necessarily saying that much, but it's really good. Again, I would say this is top 3 shows, period.
Top 3. Okay.
Yep.
Right. Moving on to the next series, The Vexations of a Shut-In Vampire Princess, based on the ongoing light novel of the same name by Richu, who did the art, and Kote Kobayashi, who did the story. Published in English by Yen Press under the Yen on imprint, and is also digitally published by Square Enix through Manga Up.
Also, Manga Up.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing that. Now, you did mention this series, the studio before, Project Number 9. You know, where would we be without a series that was done by Project Number 9? Just to give you some score context, the original source material had a raw score of 7.57. The current MAL score for the anime is a 7.3. Kind of consistent with how a lot of Project Number 9 series have been received. I mean, did you watch this?
Yeah.
Did you force yourself to watch this? Is it any good?
Okay. First of all, people say that this is a girl love show. Kind of not. It's more Yuri bait. And even then, that's being liberal about the tag. Okay?
And you would know about girl love and Yuri Bay because you are...
I'm the aficionado
Yeah.
of the group.
Yeah, you raised your pinky up while you were talking. Like, this is how I feel about this shit. Yeah. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like
Yes,
that.
exactly.
Like I'm not going to say what I just did, but you can surmise what I did a certain hand motion. Okay, anyways.
Go ahead and pronounce the vampire's name.
Oh yeah, Bloodshot Heart Underblade. No, I'm just kidding.
If you could actually recite her full name, that'd be amazing.
So 3 years into her life as a hikikomori shut-in vampire, Terra Komari Gandes Blood,
Or Komari for short.
awakens. Okay, so how do I explain this show? First of all, it stars a shut-in vampire who doesn't like drinking blood. Okay, so she is a lolly. She's super weak, and she has no abilities whatsoever. Set in a world where vampires and other otherworldly beings roam the world and are super badass, and everything is about power and bloodshed. Okay, her family is super prestigious in terms of vampire lineage, which is a thing in like the lore of vampires. Lineage is a big deal.
But she's a mudblood.
She doesn't like blood.
Yeah.
She's like that thing is gross. So she's weak in comparison.
She's a beta.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a beta vampire.
And she shuts herself in. Hikikomori. So what's the deal, right? Well, here's the thing. So the Empress is the ruler of all domains. There's like 6 domains or 7. And in order to crown the next person, you have to win a war. Will, have you heard of a board game called Blood Rage?
Yes, and I've played it.
Have you played it?
Yes.
Do you know the setup, like the geographical setup, right? It's essentially...
Have I played Blood Rage? I played the game that's like of their. It's in the same kind of series like done by like the person who did
Sun,
Rising
right?
Sun.
And
I played Rising Sun, and I haven't played Ankia, but I haven't played Blood Rage. I have played Rising Sun.
Have you seen the board?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so this is like inside baseball, but let me just bear with me so I can give Will some context.
Yeah, as if talking about anime wasn't nerdy enough, we're not talking about board games here.
So
yeah.
in Blood Rage, Yggdrasil is attached to all of the regions surrounding it, but each of the surrounding regions are not necessarily attached to each other, right? So in this world, the center is essentially all these domains, these factions go to war with each other, and then each domain has like its own like corner of the board of the kingdom of the realm. So here's the dumb part. Her father, who is like a daddy's girl, out of nowhere was like, "Yo, you said you wanted to become the Empress, right? That was last night. I told the Empress that I'm putting your candidacy in for the ruler of this domain. So now you're going to go into constant war with the 6 domains. And yeah. Also, you see that kind of seal that is kind of in your naval area because, Project Number 9 got to do Project Number 9 stuff. Oh, yeah. How did that happen? Doesn't that a contract has to be sealed with the Empress? How did that happen? Oh, she was here last night. What do you mean? She was here and she made out with you. That's how she sealed the contract. Oh, yeah, and there's also, like, what's the ReZero maid? The Kudere maid? Rem?
Rem.
Yeah. She's here, too.
I mean, Ram as well, because she's literally...
Yeah, but Ram is red hair, right?
No one likes Ram.
So, Rem, there's a blue hair maid here, by the way.
Called Vil.
Yeah. She is... She's just going to tag along with you. And I know you have no powers. Good luck. Don't die. She's going to help you. Good luck. Peace out. Also, she's super into you and does pervy stuff to you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. That's the premise.
Okay.
It's like Tearmoon Empire, except the D-Gen version.
So not as good, still good? Where do you sit with this?
It's a farce in terms of the storyline because when they go to constant war, they reveal at a certain point, let's just say it's a never-ending war. Okay? So everyone has to bend their will to the winner begrudgingly. And she's a fraud, obviously, because she has no powers, and she has to lead a group of people that can literally tear her apart. So she has to fake it till you make it. And so far, it looks all right. I know I said a lot. But
7?
7. I think the comedy of The Maid is S tier. Because the voice actress is one side Violet Evergarden, one side hentai pervert, one side comedian.
One side blue hair.
Like, when they do, like, a version of, like, there's, like, a general, and then let me act out what he said. But instead of saying what he said, he actually does, like, try to do, like, that general's voice, which is, I think that voice actress is, like, dope, essentially. She's, like, MVP of the show. The comedy is all right. The girl love thing I don't think is really there, because I think it's more, like, pervy. Oh, yeah. Also, the Empress has, like, lolly fetish because because the main character is a lolly. Figures. There is a poem read out at one point that stars Strawberry Milkshake. You see where I'm going with that? Yep.
So, decent show.
If that's your thing, that's your thing.
Decent, then.
It's fine.
Okay.
I will probably watch it if I have nothing else better to watch, but it's not bad show for sure.
Okay. Moving on to the next one, which is the goddamn anime gone done it again. Another series with a 2-hour long premiere. We are talking about Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
Should we do that last?
We should just go about it now because we've already talked a lot about it before in the ASAP. And really, what more do we need to add outside of the fact that, look, it's done massively well so far. Like, no shit. Like,
produced by Studio Madhouse.
Yep.
8.95 anime of the season. Everyone, including you and everyone you know, is probably not going to stop talking about it. So get ready for Will and I's GAP Bros take on it. It's fucking good. End of story.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm actually surprised that it's this high, considering like the way that the story plays out in the manga, how it's a very generally like solemn tone and it's very slow. But maybe that's probably why people like it. It's easier for you to take in the other aspects of beauty in terms of like the character design, the art, the color vibrancy that there is. Because I mean, it's hard for us to see through manga, right?
Yeah.
But I would imagine that with Madhouse doing this and the fact that it's a 2-hour premiere, that they gotta do what's on screen like right. They gotta make sure it looks and sounds good at the very least.
So, this might be very late to say, but for Hong Kong listeners, Netflix has done all of us a solid because Frieren is on Netflix. Then there's Pluto. Then there is Apothecary Diaries. There is Forbidden Deductions. There's just so many good simulcast shows airing right now that is available on Netflix Hong Kong. So that's the first thing that is like, I mean, we talked about it for our streaming platform update, and it doesn't continue to disappoint, at least from the Hong Kong region side. I can't speak for other regions, okay?
What more can we say? It's a good show.
Now, it's a great show. You should watch it just like everyone else should watch it. It probably is, in terms of critically speaking, anime of the podcast season for me personally. And if there's an easiest recommend ever, it would be this show. Now, let me talk about anything you want to say before I'm about to say what I'm about to say.
I mean, 2-hour premiere, 8.95. I would imagine, like, with how all these series go, it will probably be ending the season at like an 8.75, 8.8, which is still phenomenal. But I wouldn't count on it being rated this high for that long.
Now, let me go into a little bit of what actually I don't like about the adaptation. The animation is not that great.
Oh, interesting.
In comparison to what I thought it would be. Of course, the animation is not bad to scoff at. At one point, they fight a dragon, and it's like SAO style kind of choreography and fluidity, like Saguka moment. And in those moments, especially the orchestral soundtrack is phenomenal. It's like How to Train Your Dragon plays in the background while they fight a dragon. It's kind of weird and crazy and hype. But in those, if you exclude those moments, not that it needs to be, everything needs to be Violet Evergarden level of quality.
What I would say, like, and this is not to say what you're thinking is wrong, like, because you actually watched it, so you are very much entitled to your opinion. But what I would kind of like at least give some leeway to them is when thinking about those specific scenes in the manga, they're not super long or detailed. It's literally just a couple of panels, and then a whole fight or battle is done. So I think that for them, they do have to put in a little bit more creative agency into creating a very fluid animation. And it can't be tough. Now, that doesn't excuse Madhouse. Look, like, they might not have been the same studio as they were before, but it's still Madhouse. You would still expect them to be able to put something good. And not to say it's bad, right? It's still decent, but not quite up to your expectations. It falls short of it.
No. It's not that it is decent. It's actually very good. In terms of the animation quality, it's just
for a 2-hour premiere, you would have hoped for like this to be like movie quality, like this is the cream of the crop kind of animation.
I mean, also there's like more episodes, right? But I would argue actually one other show that we have yet to talk about has more fluid animation per frame per se. I think the color is also done very well. There's nothing like offensively bad at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Everything is amazing. But when everything is like S tier, like let me put it this way, Will. When everything is S tier and one thing is A tier,
You would notice the A
you would
tier.
notice the A tier. Does that mean A is bad? No. But you notice it nonetheless. It's like a small, like the most finest criticism, like the smallest minute criticism. But it's just obvious when it stands out. That's all.
Nitpicky, maybe?
Extremely nitpicky. And I will stand by that it is extremely nitpicky. But it is...
A criticism nonetheless.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's about it, really. What else do we need to say more about that other than
Watch it.
watch it, right?
It needs to... It's top 3 again. It's
Right.
Pluto, Apothecary Diaries, and Frieren and Beyond Journey's End.
Now, on to what perhaps, at least according to our discussions about this particular
Now,
series,
this one.
is probably like the surprise of fall 2023. Overtake! An anime original that was produced by Studio Troika, currently holding a 7.42 for its mouse score. Now, get this. Popularity-wise, 3,888, only 30,000 members. Not a very well-known series. Not a lot of hype coming along into it. But after you've watched it, you watched a few episodes, I think you were having a little back and forth about, what this series is all about and how you felt about it. It seems that you've been pleasantly surprised by the presentation of this series. Like, you've got some pretty positive things to say about it.
I mean, it reminds me of a Salaryman Club, right?
Ryman's Club. Yeah.
Ryman's Club. Sorry, my bad. I think
But
the actual
I think the English is called.
definition-
Yeah. I think yeah.
So, well, let me.
Is it because it's called Ryman's Club because it's literally just a short form? You take the Sala out of Salaryman.
I think so,
and it's just
yeah.
Riemann,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, that's why.
I mean, I'm not surprised if that's actually the case. Well, do you like Fate Zero?
I love Fate Zero. Yeah.
Do you like Recreators?
I'm trying to like. Wait, why are we piecing in Recreators and Fate Zero? I almost said ReZero. Fate Zero. What's the connection here?
I'll tell you eventually. But you like those two works, right? Would you say it's? I mean, obviously, Fate Zero you put it in way higher regard.
I love Fate Zero, and like personally, I also really love Recreators. I know there's a lot of people out there that deride it and call it a very mid show. I will disagree to that, but then again, it's like it's my opinion against yours. We're never going to agree. I'm going to stand by me liking Recreators.
Do you like the first Garden of Sinners movie?
Oh, it was okay. Now, the going into it on like in retrospect, it was okay. It was decent, but watching it for the first time, not knowing what to expect and seeing it all play out, it was really really fun watching it.
So I mentioned those 3 IPs, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where
That's the director of Overtake. All right.
Really?
Now, do you like Mushoku Tensei 2?
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched it yet, but yeah. Actually, no, I did watch some of it. Yeah, I definitely do. Yes. I mean, okay, I'm guessing there were the sound designer or the character designer.
Sound designer.
Okay.
Sound director, to be precise. Do
Okay.
you like Deathmount Deathplay?
I wouldn't love it, but I do like it. Yeah.
Do you like Akebi Sailor Uniform?
Oh, dude, you're talking about the best action anime of all time, man.
Do you like Remain?
Not really, but
But do you like the music of all of those?
yeah.
Or at least it was good.
Despite how I feel about Remain, yeah, it presented itself well. Yeah.
That's the music composer.
Okay. Right.
Then you have Formula 4 Racing as the premise, the sport, anime original, and then you have Troika. It's a very enticing proposition. I watched it, and I think it's a very good show.
I think you were hesitating to say good.
With certain caveats. That's what I would say. Is that the story is, hey, there is a photographer who has to cash in on a favor to go to some, at that time, like, I don't know what this is. It's like some racing thing. I guess I'll go because I have to do something, and I have to cash in this favor that I owe someone some favors. Surprisingly, there is some reason why this person is kind of down on his luck, and they go into that. And then it also talks about Formula 4 racing, which is obviously not F1 racing, which is kind of the one that everyone pays attention to. So they also explain the difference between Formula 1 and Formula 4. Oh, the quote-unquote main rival, the top of the charts in the Formula 4 just so happens to be red color, kind of like a certain very well-known team in Formula 1 that has a red-white color. Oh, and our ragtag team of people, they don't have the money. They're the underdogs. They're all white because, that's not making any parallels whatsoever, with Ferrari and whatnot. Wait, Will, what was that movie with Matt Damon and Christian Bale?
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I don't remember the name, but I know
it's like that Ford
I
thing.
know exactly what you're talking about.
The name escapes me, but it's kind of like that ragtag group of people. It's like Red Line as well, where like you are the underdog in like a race filled with you're against the odds, but you make it work somehow. That is Overtake.
And you watched it, you liked it. You mentioned something about the smooth animation as well, right?
I was really bothered by the 3D cars, and I think when we watched the trailer...
Let's be honest, when are you not bothered by 3D? Unless it's orange. Right? Like it's,
guilty. But it's fair to say that there is a race towards the end of the first episode, okay? And I actually did not care at that point about the way that the 3D cars looked. And I have to say later on those episode 2 and 3, they the graphics is just like a non sequitur in my mind already. Like it didn't matter if it looked good or bad. It's just fine. I was in on the ride, Yeah.
So would you recommend like people check this out? Because it is like really under the radar. I mean, there's also some like very unknown shows that have been going on this season, but of all the series so far, this is the first original we've been talking about today.
Which is like kind of crazy, to be honest. And as in like the first original show, it's not a 9.
It's not top of your list,
and
right?
I don't think it's even an 8. I do think, depending on how it happens, because I think Ryman's Club is a very good parallel, because I think Ryman's Club, you and I were very disappointed because...
It started off really strong.
And the first episode, phenomenal for Overtake as well. I love the ending of it, and it just cuts to black and credits roll. There's no, opening at that point. It was just, cold open. Not cold open. It was just...
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah,
anime starts
just straight into it,
and then that's when at the very end, that's when it's movie credits roll and scrolls down, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty good first episode.
Will you continue watching it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't
just to see how it develops, right?
Just see how it develops. I always liked rooting for the underdog because I don't think anyone is against that kind of mentality either.
But as of now, it still stands to be probably a 7.5.
Yeah. Extra props to Kana Utatane, who did the soundtrack, because if you want a Gran Turismo knockoff soundtrack, and I don't mean knockoff in a bad sense, I mean something
what it is. Yeah,
something that's inspired by that soundtrack while the race happens. That's essentially it, which is really dope in my opinion.
It's just nice to see that there is a racing show, a Japanese racing show that doesn't just do Initial D soundtracks, right? It's not just Eurobeat.
I mean, Eurobeat is great too, but I mean, Gran Turismo soundtrack is phenomenal in my books.
It's not just gas, right? It's not just those kinds of sounds of the old school 80s and 90s Initial D.
I mean, everyone loves that song. I love that song.
Or Running in the 90s. Yeah, that's just great. That was a great song, but it would be a bit weird to see that in Overtake, right?
Yeah, of course. But
okay. I mean, a decent recommendation.
Yeah, animation is sharp, but that's about it. It's just
right. Cool. Okay, moving on to a series that I've never heard of: Ron Kamonohashi's Forbidden Deductions, based on the manga series Ron Kamonohashi Deranged Detective by Akira Amano, who did the story and the art. published in English, simulpubbed by Manga Plus. The anime is currently being produced by Studio Dimedia. Now, the scores between the source as well as the anime are incredibly similar. Source holding a 7.47, anime holding a 7.50. It's like there's almost nothing you're splitting hairs at this point. So, what the hell is this show all about? Do you watch it?
Yeah. Will, do you like Sherlock?
Yeah. Well, are you talking about Sherlock the story itself or Sherlock the TV series?
No, not Sherlock Holmes, as in Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, the TV series. I never actually watched it, but I know it was incredibly popular.
So, Forbidden Deductions, because I'm not going to say the full name, is essentially Sherlock. A genius detective, and funny enough, here, anime-ass anime premise. Will, there is a detective school called Blue.
Okay.
And all of the famous detectives graduate from there. But during this one graduating year...
Look, I'm not trying to be mean, but that just sounds a very lazy name.
Yeah, no, you're ready for this premise? It gets even cornier, okay? There was a prodigy that was hailed as, if this person graduates and becomes a detective, and I quote, there was a faculty at one point that jumps up and says, he solved a crime that can't be solved. Once he graduates, no crimes will be ever left unsolved again. He said that in subtitles. Okay?
Okay.
But there's a problem with this detective. And I'm not spoiling anything because that's the whole premise of the show.
He's a drug addict.
No.
Oh, okay.
He kills his killers. Not directly.
Oh, okay.
Basically, he
did what Batman couldn't do.
He somehow convinces the killers when revealed to be like, yo, you fucking murdered this guy? You are fucking scum of the earth. And there's like some semi-mysticism thing, but essentially like he berates the guy and be like, jump off the cliff right now. You don't deserve to live.
Jesus Christ.
And he jumps off the cliff.
Wow, okay.
So because of that, because he kills...
So a lot of like psychomanipulation.
He gets banished. He gets kicked out, expelled from this prestigious university, and is revoked from ever getting his detective license.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's par for the course. I mean, imagine you have like vigilante policemen who go around and actually kill murderers. Like, yeah, those people they killed were criminals, but that's also an overexertion of the authority that you've been given.
Fast forward to modern day now, because that was a flashback. You get our modern day Watson, a good, kind-hearted individual that just doesn't have it together as a detective, is on the team of detectives, but is kind of like the water boy equivalent. But somehow runs into the genius prodigy, and they discovered that they work well together because he would try to save the killers because he has no regard for his own life because he has so little self-worth, because he has been, kind of bottom of the barrel the whole time. And the prodigy's like, well, you are going to solve the crimes, but I'm going to tell you how to solve them. So you get all the accolades. I get to solve crimes despite not being able to and forbidden from. Let's work together. That's the anime.
Okay. Is it any good?
It's aight.
It's aight.
I would say it's an 8 out of 10. Production-wise, it's very good. The crimes that are being solved, I think, in any of these mystery kind of shows is very much the cornerstone and can make or break anything. And the mystery is like, okay. It's not very far-fetched. It's not very dramatic yet, but it very much can because, hey, surprisingly, someone from Blue is like, I sense something in the wind. Isn't our exiled, expelled student supposed to be greatest of all time?
Look, I think that when you try and describe something as Sherlock-esque, it always carries a weight of expectation on it, right? And that's probably why you're a bit more middling about giving this a good score.
Yeah, and a bit cryptic and mysterious and trying to be corny, because all of that actually is what sold me on the anime. It's actually not the solving of the mystery and the process itself. It is the banter between essentially the Sherlock and the Watson. They are not Sherlock and Watson by name, but come on, don't lie to yourself. We all know this. Everyone knows this. Then there is the very eccentric quote unquote Sherlock character, because I'm just going to say that from now on, because that's all that can. He's like black hair, disheveled. He looks very much like Benedict Cumberbatch in many ways. And it's just like his eccentric way of solving crimes is actually, oh wow, he's like super genius, 400 IQ, smart, 360 no scope. How did you figure this out? And then it just spells it all out in front of you as if it was like child's play, but not that far-fetched. It's entertaining nonetheless.
Okay.
And maybe when Blue gets involved, it becomes a detective off. Who knows?
All right. Next up we have is My New Boss is Goofy. Actually produced by A1 Pictures. We haven't said that name at all today, which is interesting. Actually, we haven't seen anything from Cloverworks this season, have we? Even though we've done an retrospective last year, and there were a lot of Cloverworks. But anyways,
they're just taking a break, man.
Yeah, they need it. All right, so back onto my New Boss is Goofy. It's based on the ongoing web manga series of the same name by Dan Ichikawa, who did the story and the art. I'm not going to read that part because it's very, very long. But this was a series that ranked first in the 2019 Web Manga Susenkyo and ranked 18th in the 2020 Kodo Manga Sugoi for female readers. As of now, no English translation, so unfortunately Jason can't read it, but you can watch it instead. So the original source, 7.51. The anime currently runs at a 7.66. So pretty decent scores. What the hell is this series about? This is my goofy new boss, or My New Boss is Goofy.
This is the fluffy, wholesome anime show of the season. Now, the premise might sound very boy love-esque, but actually it's, to my knowledge, very little of that. If anything, is fan fiction that you want to ship those two people, which I get because they're like the two main characters.
So it's bait.
Yeah. We live in a culture of working under the gun, overworked, underpaid, and berated by your superiors. Would you say that the general sentiment around the world is like that?
Yeah.
Or at least that's a very popular narrative to get behind, right? Like, you wouldn't be surprised if that's the way for a lot of people, right? But what if your boss was none of that? And he's just kind of ditzy.
Just a goofball.
Just a goofball. A well-natured goofball. Hence, my new boss is Goofy. And this actually happens. It's not necessarily a spoiler per se, but it highlights what does the term goofy in this case mean. So let's say, Will, I'm your boss for like this hypothetical scenario, and you're doing something on your computer screen, with your mouse and everything, and you're trying to figure it out. I'm your boss. I walk by and you ask me, oh, hey, how do I solve this? And I'll be like, oh, I show you. And I put my hand on top of your hand to like use the mouse.
I will contact HR immediately.
Which is funny because they use that as like a kind of a gag. Okay. But that's the level of goofiness.
Okay.
And then he'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean it like that. I was just like super like wanted to help you out.
This is where the bait comes in then, huh? Where it's like there's some undertones of yaoi, but it's not like it's never actually full blown BL.
Yeah, or like, oh hey, you need you need headache medication. Oh, I accidentally bought, Pepto-Bismol instead. That's the level of goofiness that we're talking about. It's like, when people describe your behavior as kind of cute.
Yeah. That
is essentially this new boss, because he's the stoic guy, but actually he's been misunderstood, because all he is he just wants to do right by others, but he's just kind of ADHD, frazzle-brained, but extremely successful nonetheless. And everyone is like happy-go-lucky. Our male other lead just started this new job because he got stomach ulcers from his last job due to stress and being berated and everything. And he feels a sense of relief whenever his new boss, not only being successful and kind-hearted, but it's kind of goofy. So it's not always work. Sometimes it's just like a good time. That is my boss's Goofy.
Right. Now, is the series actually a good time?
I think it's extremely comfy.
Entertaining?
I mean, if I was your boss and I told you there was a fire alarm today, and then the fire alarm happens, the fire drill, and everyone just slowly gets up, and me as the boss panic and look around being like, guys, there's a fucking fire. Holy shit. Guys, like, why, like, oh my God, are you guys okay? Do you need to go? It's like, oh, he's just going to the bathroom. No, don't go to the bathroom. There's a fucking fire. I'll princess carry you, whatever. That is my boss's Goofy.
Okay. So it's an okay show.
It's a cutesy show.
Right.
It's not top tier fluff, but it's probably like the only one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard when you have so many bangers coming out this season, right? So if you have a fluff show, like, you'd hope for it to be good.
It's a very good palate cleanser, I'll say that.
Right. But on its own, it's okay.
There's no homoeroticism. It's just a good, nice time. Chill.
Okay. Move on to the next one then. Shangri-La Frontier.
No. Let's leave that last.
Okay, so you want to go talk about Villainess first then?
Yeah.
I'm in love with the Villainess, based on a light novel series of the same name by Inori, who did the story, Hanagata did the art, published in English by Seven Seas Entertainment, and the adaptation, yeah, same thing there. So
Platinum Vision, yeah.
Yeah, Platinum Vision. So here's the kicker here. Raw score for the source, 8.33. Anime is 7.47.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What went wrong there? You watched it.
Nothing. Nothing went wrong. It's just okay adaptation. They did I really like the manga adaptation of I Am in Love with the Villainess. This is like a GL manga through and through. If ends, no buts, because our main heroine Claire is super into our tsundere queen, the Villainess essentially. And I've talked at lengths about the premise, so I'm not going to harp on that. The production is only okay. It's very fine, presentable, nothing to scoff at. But because I think I'm up to volume 4 or 5 in the manga, and obviously the light novel has gone way further and more acclaimed, they haven't got to the good bits even in the manga yet, because obviously it's only the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to judge at this stage.
Yeah, but the production side I don't think is really going to dramatically increase or decrease. It just looks fine, It's one of those things, very inoffensive, very presentable, but nothing really to say. Other than that, Claire VA played very well. The Lolly voice is the tsundere, not Lolly, the tsundere Villainess voice is very much played out like very hoity-toity, high society kind of accent or voice, which is exactly what you expect. It's fine.
Go, okay.
Was I expecting this adaptation to blow me off the ground and be in love with it? No, but it ain't a villain either.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay. Now, I think there might be a reason as to why you wanted to talk about this one last. Shangri-La Frontier, based on the ongoing manga of the same name by Ryosuke Fuji, who did the art, and Katarina, who did the story, published in English as Shangri-La Frontier by Kodansha USA. And, get this, it was also the winner of the Kodansha Manga Award in the Shonen category of 2023. The anime is currently being produced by C2C. The raw score is, well, for the original source is a 7.84. 8.01 for the anime adaptation. Pretty damn good so far. So what's this whole VR game going on here? Like, what's this all about?
So this Shangri-La Frontier was actually also on the short list for ASAP.
It was, yes.
In fact, I would say arguably it would have been number 6, but obviously we only went with the 5 that we did.
Yep.
And it's a bit unfortunate. We probably should have.
Because it's really damn good?
It's actually really damn good. I'll be honest.
To be fair, though, the 5 series we talked about for ASAP3 they were hard to knock.
It's hard to knock, right? And I don't think we could have added a 6 unless if we want to add another 45 minutes.
I think the only thing you could have knocked from there was maybe 100 Girlfriends.
But I think 100 Girlfriends we discussed it. It warranted more merit to talk about.
Because it's different, right?
Yeah, it is. So I think the premise is fucking wild. Will, we play a lot of video games, right?
I think with the sort of general synopsis of a kid going into a VR game and min-maxing stuff, how is this different from, SAO?
And they also make a lot of references to that. But here's the thing. Well, the thing is, like, when we saw the bird headgear, they actually explained that in, like, the first 5 minutes. And when I thought of that, I was just like, this is fucking genius. Okay. So this is a world where VR gaming becomes the norm, so there's no more console gaming. And because the golf, and I need to explain this because actually is the reason why he is OP in this anime. There is now a new market of people seeking out shitty games.
Okay.
Because whether it is to break the game, whether it is like weird prestige, or whether it is simply because the adversity to bugs and stuff and still being able to say you beat it completely, they are carried a subculture of trash games where at one point in the very beginning of episode 1, there's literally gaming stores where the whole point of the store is to have bargain bin games. I don't know why you wouldn't patch it out or have money to develop it, but okay, fine. You make it buggy on purpose, I guess, and people seek it out. Because our main character is so adept, so good at all these shitty buggy games, and by the way, the first 5 minutes is extremely hilarious because it is him beating one of these games, and it's just really funny what happens due to a quote-unquote scripting error that was left there unintentionally but had very funny consequences. One of the shopkeeper of like this, bargain bin gaming stores, like, why don't you play all these trash games? Why don't you actually play Shangri-La Frontier, the game that is going to end all games and be all games, right? And he's just like, fine, I'll fucking play it. Sure, whatever. Fuck it. Yeah, go. Okay, fine. Plays it and discovers that because he played all those shitty games in the past, he is now super OP. And because he wants to hide his identity, he scrolls through the classes, first of all. He's like, I'm just going to be a wanderer. In Dark Souls, do you play Dark Souls 1?
No, but I know enough about the
There's
game.
a naked class, like a wanderer class.
Oh, yes, okay, I didn't know that.
So he was like, but the luck, it's funny because they reference that. It's very clear to me it's a Dark Souls reference. The archetype, the class that you start off with, the luck is increased. So that also tells me, okay, that's Dark Souls.
Yep.
Fully naked, whatever. It's like, but like it will show my face. What kind of headgear should I pick? Oh, the only one that actually conceals my face is a bird mask. So in Dark Souls, there is a headgear that looks like a pot.
Okay, yep, I remember that.
And you have dual katanas and whatnot. So that is essentially our main male character.
So what is it about this series that makes you feel like, man, if we were actually able to talk about 6 manga series for ASAP 3, it would have been sweet? Like, what is it?
It's extremely pretty. The art is extremely good. And the dialogue from our male main character is very smart in the sense of convincing me that this person knows a lot about video games. I think there is a lot of internal monologue of all these OP, isekai, whatever main characters where we are all being like, we're not buying it. We know that's the premise. We know you're OP. Okay, we'll deal with it. But what you're saying is bullshit. It's like, doesn't equate anything to me. You're not being smart. You think you're smart, but we all know, like, you're just being stupid. This male main character is just like, yeah, I will logic my way out. Just like we would play video games, like in your mind, how you would internalize stuff. It'd be like, okay, this increases that, so therefore I need to do this. Oh, this character showed up. Oh, that's a rare drop. I mean, I know a lot of shows or, mangas or light novels do have this more recent thing of talking as if you are one of the consumers of the medium. In this case, it is very much like that. Very much very attuned also with, like, to me, when you say like the scripting is off of a video game, that is not just simple and then kind of explain why that's a big deal and what you can do with it in like the early like couple of minutes of your anime. To me, that is an extra several levels deeper than saying like the graphics fidelity is good, the frame rate is good. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone will gravitate or being able to articulate why, being able to walk through walls, speed running style,
I think
is a big deal.
But I think it's that attention to detail that shows that these people clearly have researched, what they want to show, and they're not just putting on the spectacle. They're not just like, oh, it's a VR game, they're gonna do VR game shit. But it's also like they take into account game mechanics. They take into account like how to make use of inventory, how to actually logic your battles, and watch for certain like patterns and like enemy moves and whatnot. Like those are the kind of things that like it goes a long way, especially for people who actually care about that specific medium. In a way where, like, for example, when I was watching Sword Art Online, a lot of the game mechanics didn't make any fucking sense, right? And that was like obviously something for me to just nitpick, because overall the story and the characters are what's important. But even at the back of my mind, it's like there's no way that you can pop this many potions when you're in the middle of a battle. There's no way you can do all this and that, And
it's not that intricate or that like so deep.
No, it doesn't
level
make
of detail.
It doesn't make or break anything, but it does. Like, if it does well, then it's like, okay, they did the research. There's the cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah, and when I say that, like, the main character's dialogue or internal monologue is convincing and knowledgeable, it doesn't overdo it. It gives you enough to convince someone that knows, and for someone that doesn't know, you'll be like, oh, that person said a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo stuff, but that sounds complex. Okay, I buy that he is OP. But people that know is like, okay, you didn't say everything that is intricate, or maybe I can nitpick one thing of the thing you just said, but it is a very modest effort such that it's not a big deal, and it convinces, it's like an extra level of immersion. Then you add in a very fluid graphics and animation where I'm kind of convinced this is the most fluid show minus Apothecary Diaries. I think in certain ways, Frieren, frame by frame, minus like the Sakuga moments, Shangri-La Frontier looks smoother.
Now, that is the interesting point, because, again, not to disparage anybody or any studio, but C2C.
I know. It's kind of crazy, bro. I'm not going to lie. But that's literally the first couple episodes. It is nonstop fluid.
Like, the animation does
vibrant.
The animation does not lie.
It looks like World of Warcraft with modern anime graphics fidelity.
Okay. Damn,
like, if this
right.
was 60 frames per second, I would kind of be like, yeah, that would look okay. That would look pretty good, actually.
Wow. You would actually give that one a 60 frames treatment.
Yeah, like, the coloring and the lines are one of those things. It's like extra level of detail that is just sharp, very fluid. When they need to increase the frames of animation, they do. When they don't, they make compromises such that it looks slightly janky, but they're just standing there talking, so you don't need that many frames of animation. But when the battle scenes go in, they're just like, fucking balls to the wall. Let's add in tons of budget and money into this moment. I mean, Frieren also does that. But to me, it's like, when you look at the odds that Madhouse and Frieren being an IP, then you look at Shangri-La Frontier being still a very outstanding IP, and then look at C2C, it's incomparable to a certain sense. But still, I would argue C2C's almost efficiency is like very high compared to Madhouse. Like, Madhouse probably has more money, more manpower, more resources. But
well, we don't know currently, but I would say yes. If you compare the two, then I would I would give the edge to Madhouse.
Yeah, and using that as an analogy, C2C has less to work with, but can be almost in certain respects, in my mind, toe to toe.
I mean, they make the best out of what they have and do, right?
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, your quantity is not a lot, but your conversion, your rate is like super high.
Would you give this the animation, like the action adventure series of the season?
1,000%. You don't watch Frieren or Apothecary Diaries or Pluto for the action. This is the action of, in my opinion, of the season.
Okay.
Especially new show wise, yeah.
Well, there you go. You might not be getting your Jujutsu Kaisen.
Don't watch
Chainsaw
Undead
Mans.
Unluck. Don't fucking watch that shit.
Shield Hero? Maybe.
Watch Shangri-La Frontier first.
Okay. Yeah, fair. All right. There you go. Well, that wraps up our complete breakdown, preview, review, whatever you want to call it.
Now I'm going to break down.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's a lot of fucking shows.
We talked about a lot of stuff today.
And a lot that we haven't even mentioned yet. Fuck, Will.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Uematsume. We didn't talk about what was that?
Arc Knights.
Deranged Detective. Oh, we did talk about Deranged Detective.
Yeah, that's Deductions, yeah.
What was the other one that I was thinking? Oh, Under Ninja. We didn't talk about Under Ninja.
Fuck, I do want to watch it and see how bad it is. Oh my god.
There's the other one too. A Girl and Her Guard Dog. There's another one.
Yeah, the shoujo fucking.
There was a lot of stuff, but I think we covered the ones that were worth like mentioning, worth checking out. Some that you absolutely need to check out, and sort of giving you like a preemptive warning about what to expect if you watch certain series. So I think and good timing as well. This is probably like the fastest we've done for a seasonal review, which to be fair is amazing considering how many fucking shows we talked about today.
Yeah, and I think I definitely will watch a lot of other shows, at least like give it a couple of episodes and see how it goes, and I'll report in for future reading, watching, whether it is, within these couple of months or even later, who knows. But I do think there's a lot of potential shows that you kind of throw a dart and you're just going to hit a decent to good show regardless.
Yeah, time has not really been on my side the last 2-3 months, but hopefully when things ease up a little bit down the road, I would be...
Wait, what's that song? Time is on my side.
Oh,
isn't that Blue Girl?
I don't know or remember.
But while Will tries to remember, I will tell you to remember that there are several ways that you can reach us at the Good Anime Palette Podcast. You can reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, using the handle @PaletteGood, that's capital P and capital G, all one word, or through our JAP Discord server using the invite link in the show description. We have a website, www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. We encourage you to check it out. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Never or Right Now by ELFL. Our break music is Not Gonna Wake Up, the instrumental version by Mind Me, and our outro music is Like the Ocean by The Big Letdown. You can support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or various other music listening platforms, and our royalty-free music was provided by Epidemic Sound. If you're interested, you can always sign up using the referral link in our show description. Terms and conditions apply. All right, as a final send-off for our fall 2023 seasonal preview.
We'll just call it that. Yeah.
Preview review lineup.
Pre-review.
We will now reveal our picks.
Yes.
That we did offline.
Yep. So just like every other season, we will be talking about the series that we both have on our seasonal bets. So just to remind everybody that I am currently the champion of the seasonal bet.
Absolutely.
It's still a 1-5 record. Not the best, but I'll take it.
Still the current winner.
So we have a new slew of series that we both have on our rosters. I'll go for mine and then you go for yours.
Before that, we're still doing 10 shows. We did a snake draft. Who picked first?
I think you did.
Because you won. So then you had the choice.
Yeah, and then you picked and you went first, I think.
Yeah, you said I picked first.
Yeah.
And then...
I think that's when you picked Eminence and Shadow Season 2.
Right.
Yeah. So on my side...
Wait, not yet.
We've got all the stuff written in our...
No, we ignored Frieren and we ignored the girl and the guard dog because it was airing at that time.
Yeah, the premiere had already come out for Frieren, and there was no way we could put that in there and have it be a fair competition.
And because Pluto was an ONA, it doesn't count anyways, so it's all about new shows. All right, let's go.
So on my side, I've got Ragnar Crimson, Fully Coolly Shoegaze, which I'm very much regretting, Goblin Slayer Season 2, which I'm actually very happy about, the Vexations of a Shut-In Vampire Princess, the Apothecary Diaries, Same power, magic power is Omnipotent Season 2, Spy Family Season 2, Seven Deadly Sins, Four Nights of the Apocalypse, I'm in Love with the Villainess, and Tokyo Revengers Tenchi-Ken, which is the current season.
Speaking of like latest seasons having a redemption arc, Seven Deadly Sins. Also,
not
right?
bad, right?
I mean, Studio Dean changed hands, then all of a sudden, hey, it's doing good. Surprise, surprise, right?
Yep.
All right, my picks were my new boss is Goofy, which I was very surprised by the very positive reception. Deathmount Deathplay Part 2, Dr. Stone New World Part 2, Ron Kamonohashi's Forbidden Deductions, The Eminence and Shadow Season 2. My most disappointing pick was Our Dating Story, The Experience You and The Experience Me, Ancient Magus' Bride Season 2 Part 2, Shangri-La Frontier, Tearmoon Empire, and Uma Musume Pretty Derby Season 3.
Yeah. So the score differential right now is not super far, but I've got a little hill to climb to be able to match up to what your current score is.
0.17.
Yeah. Not too crazy, especially since it's only the first couple of weeks. But as of recording, this does mean that every single seasonal has had at least one episode come out. So look, now's your time to get into watching your anime. I know you might be one of the ones who want to wait for everything to come out. And if you are, then watch Pluto. Everything's out for Pluto already.
Damn straight.